Thank God it's Friday. Welcome to Midnight's Edge. I am Tom Connors. With me is the boss man, Andre. How you doing?
Greetings, everyone. I am good. It's the end of another week of Disney Hell, actually, which we will be talking about today. That and everything else. Moving on in pop culture as we take a look back at the week that went.
It's more like a bowel movement in pop culture, but anyway, a little too early for those kind of jokes. Also joining us, Culture Casino. How you doing?
I'm fantastic. I'm having a great day so far. It's Friday. It's a holiday weekend. We're headed into Memorial Day. I love it. I'm stoked. I like Fridays. Fridays are fun.
That's a general thing. Yeah, they are. And someone else who might find Fridays fun is Script Doctor.
Hello. Happy to be here. With the writer's strike, every day is Friday for me.
I was going to say, you're going to be on Fridays for a while, probably. Especially if the actors and directors get involved.
Yeah, yes, especially with that. Yep.
The studios are cleaning house.
Well, it needs it.
Force majeure. They're force majeuring their way out of an awful lot of contracts.
Which is happy for me because it betters my odds that I'll be writing when the strike is resolved.
Correct. That's correct. You are at the right price point.
Yes, I am.
Also joining us this morning, the new co-star of The Little Mermaid. I don't know if you guys have seen it yet. Mr. Paul Chato.
Yes, I am.
There he is.
This is Flounder.
I see. No, Mr. Limpet.
Mr. Limpet, yeah.
It needs a Blu-ray release, for God's sake.
It does.
It does. Was a wonderful movie.
I don't know who's standing in the background there, but
that's a grip.
Oh, is that what that is? I thought it was somebody specific, but I can't tell.
That wouldn't have been a bad thumbnail for me, except I don't think most of my audience knows who Mr. Limpet is.
No, that's a problem, right? Like, most people are like, "Oh, Who Framed Roger Rabbit" was the first movie to mix animation and live action. No, actually, there's like a half a dozen movies before that, and one of them being the incredible Mr. Limpet
and Song of the South,
right? And of course, Mary Poppins. But I mean, for the entire film,
and
Mr. Limpet was one of them. Basically, I guess darn near the entire film.
Again, with the dancing dude, singing in the rain guy, Gene Kelly.
Yeah, Anchors Away did with Jerry, and you had Pete's Dragon with the dragon and stuff, and there's a few. But Culture, what were you gesturing about?
There's a lot of those examples of that, but Mr. Limpet was great.
That
was Don Knotts, right?
Yep.
It was like a staple on like WGN and TBS.
Yeah, it was really cool. Yeah,
it was a kind of World War propaganda movie, but it was well done. I mean,
weird kids movie when it comes to that part. Yeah,
it was a weird movie.
It's kind of a reversal on The Little Mermaid, though, if you think about it. The story is because it's a guy who wants to be a fish,
right?
And he falls in the water and magically becomes a fish, and then he fights because he can't fight in the war because when he's a human, because he's lanky Don Knotts.
Yeah, he's F4 or something. You know, he can't enlist because he's got glasses.
Yeah,
and everything else that makes Don Knotts Don Knotts.
That's right. And then Uncle Remus says, "Say my name." I just did. There you go.
Say
zippity.
Yeah, watch it.
Exactly. Cancel Police will be coming.
That's right.
SFX 314 Saber-Tooth Raptor. That's a
wow.
Name. Says, good morning to all. Reminder to Tom, my birthday is tomorrow. Well, happy birthday tomorrow.
That's right.
Love it if you wish me a happy birthday. I will have to catch it on the replay, helping my mother out today.
Oh, now that I know your birthday, I don't have to go through your garbage to find out what it is, and I can hack you. This is good. Thanks for telling me.
That reminds me of
I love it on Facebook where people post their kids' pictures and things like that, and I'm just waiting for some kid that becomes of age and then sues their parents to take their goddamn pictures off of all their social media. Okay, I haven't heard anyone do that, but I mean,
give it time. Give it time.
To happen. Like,
I mean, now is when you kind of like have, because you have to remember, it's only like now in the last few years that you've had people that have become parents that can document their entire kid's life on social media like a freaking Truman Show.
Yeah, you don't even have to go out of your way.
Yeah.
I'm not a fan of doing that. I mean, you're now exposing your children to a lot of
not just that
people.
It takes
I don't
away
get it.
like a parent's like there's part of life like I feel like I missed out on because you're right. We had this social media thing when my kid was growing up, and sure, his early part of his life is on, you know, lost videotapes that you can't watch unless I find a VCR, and you know, a few pictures here and there, but then it all went digital. So there's like the scrapbooking part of a parent's life is gone.
Well, yeah,
Really.
photo album businesses took a huge hit with social media.
Yeah.
Which is too bad, but yeah, I mean, at least kids have their whole life and every mistake they've ever made documented on Facebook forever.
Well, as long as there's power. I mean, a photograph isn't power dependent. It stays, once it's printed, it's there.
Oh, the AI will make sure there's always power.
No.
We are the batteries.
Oh, God.
Haven't you seen The Matrix?
Oh, yeah. Totally know that we're the batteries.
Okay, Copper Top.
Well, James Cameron's holding out to see how AI shakes out before he finishes his Terminator
What an idiot.
film.
Oh, my God.
I thought when he first said it, he was just waiting for AI to get better to write it for him, but...
that would make more sense.
Yeah, no.
But no, he's using it as an inciting incident for a Terminator film?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, he quit writing it, so there's a test message for a member chat there, Andre. I think you got to mod that individual. I think I know who that is. It's CC Karaoke.
Well, I just told you who it was.
Yeah.
You think you know who that is? Okay.
It's in the name.
Yeah.
He's clever.
Okay.
But yeah, no, was it yesterday? James Cameron was at some tech talk.
Oh,
he
man.
was talking about Terminator, and he's like, yeah, a few months ago I started writing a new Terminator film, then I stopped.
When
everybody's like, huh?
When Mr. H brought that up yesterday on the H-cast, I was like, what? That is the dumbest reason. You're supposed to be a visionary, you maroon.
Well, he's using all his visionary powers on Avatar right now.
What? Oh, what? All he has to do is copy pasta Fern Gully like 7 different ways.
Right. Well, and I said goody that he stopped. I'm glad. And then I got yelled at by a lot of people when I said James Cameron is overrated. Well, he hasn't had an original idea ever.
That's true.
He's either been sued or accused of stealing something every time he's made a movie, or it's a remake or a sequel.
Foreign remake, sequel.
Yeah.
What was The Abyss based off of again? I can't remember.
I can't remember, but there's like a ton of books about aliens under the ocean.
Did I it doesn't matter. I'm not a fan of Titanic, and someday I'll tell everybody why, but this is
a true story. And then didn't he get accused of stealing like the love story part from somebody else's story for that too?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, he's very successful. No doubt about that, Malice. And he's got a flair, just like your name, when it comes to his directing. Don't get me wrong, but when it comes to his storytelling, he's crafty at it, but he's nothing original. So I'm glad he put down the pen and didn't want to do another Terminator movie because we don't need any more.
Yeah. I think we better move on, though. I'm sure we have some super chats to get us started before we get into the main topics here, because today is the day where the Little Mermaid actually opens to the public.
James Cameron should have directed it. It would have been better.
That would have been better.
I said that in my review.
Yeah, and we have someone here who has seen it. And we'll talk about Mr. Chato's thoughts on it. But first, let's do a few of these super chats.
Speaking of mermaids, Callum Lyle says, people need to ask the honest question to people like Fleabag, Mermaid, and Rings of Power and say, admit you hate men, whites, and country you were born in. Well, it's kind of hard to argue, I would think.
I think you may be surprised by the forthcomingness of their answer if you were to ask that.
I mean... Fleabag is quite the misandrist. I mean,
yeah.
Callum Lyle says, and those Rings of Power people need therapy because of the criticism. Galadriel actress admits she can't read, and Afro Dwarf lost weight or lose weight. Yeah, I don't know if you guys don't know what he's referring to here. There was a report that came out about Rings of Power, and the one elf actor was claiming he got a bunch of all kinds of racist stuff, and I'm just sitting here
Oh yeah,
juicy, or it didn't happen.
Yeah.
This was like Don Legolas. Right?
Yeah.
Don Corrado.
And I'm like sitting here because last night we were talking about it, and I'm like, that's bullshit. Because there was only 2 actors on the entire show that got any good praise, and it was the dwarf chick and him. So what the hell is he talking about? Getting death threats and racist comments and his phone hacked and all this other nonsense. Sounds to me like you got to stay off those porn sites, Don Lemon.
Well,
Don Lemon was terrible. He was blank. He had the much emotional range as a CW actor in that.
Well, there was a few people who did give him praise. That was about it. That's in a praise in a bad show. Oh yeah, there was a few people.
I thought he was horrible.
Lemon Loss? Yeah, I'm not a fan. But
there was a few people who did say he was all right, though.
But it was real frustrating, and Bounding into Comics did a great article on it yesterday, and it's well worth a read. We went over it ad nauseum last night on Comics' show, and it just look. They are claiming they needed therapy before the show came out because they were being criticized then. I'm not sure any criticism fell on anything other than the obvious, blatant, virtue signaling. I don't think they attacked the actors individually. And this is the biggest problem with all of this. And then they had a therapist on set recently, according to him in this interview. Wow.
Well, I mean, let's be honest. This is no different from Gamergate or Comicgate in that as much as there's a contingent of individuals who are dealing with things in a mature way, you know what? There's a whole shit ton of trolls out there that are just enjoying being assholes. And so, again, in some ways, it's not that different from actors many years ago saying, I never read reviews. Yeah, you know what? Stay away from it. This is the internet. This is social media. You're going to get a whole bunch of anonymous people with like a whole crapload of numbers at the end of their name that are almost bot-like. They're going to do it because this is their sport. They're immature. They're mostly men, mostly boys. And this is their fun, and it's
honestly, Paul, I bet you it's 1 or 2 people at most.
No, there's a lot.
Sometimes not, and I'll be truthful with this because we ran through the same shit with Kelly Marie Tran and some of these other people who cried this nonsense that they couldn't produce any fucking receipts whatsoever.
Well, that's the issue.
And my point is you got people inside who are doing it to themselves just to create the fucking story.
Look at the Star Wars girl.
That's what I said, Kelly Marie Tran. It was
bullshit.
Not
her.
No, Reva. Moses Ingram.
Oh, Reva? Oh, that was because they put it in her head.
Did not produce a single receipt about all the hate that she was getting even before the show started.
And because of that, they held Ewan McGregor at gunpoint to make his hostage video in the car.
In the car, right.
Yeah, exactly.
Didn't Simon Pegg do one too, even
though
nobody really asked him?
For She-Hulk.
He did one for She-Hulk?
Yeah.
And Kelly Marie Tran never accused any of the audience doing that. She made a target of Hollywood, and it was the media that was trying to imply it was the audience.
And they used the same 2 tweets that nobody can prove were actually written by anybody.
Yeah, I mean, it's like unsourceable tweets. This is the biggest problem: is there's no receipts on any of these claims,
and words have changed their meaning. So hate could be, I saw some lettuce in your teeth. Racist.
Well, no, the words haven't changed their meaning for me, Paul. I don't.
I'm not talking about you.
Yeah, no, but I'm saying is like, no, words haven't changed their meaning. People are trying to change words' meaning and twist them and conflate them with other things. You're right there. And I would never listen to those kinds of claims because they're incredibly inaccurate. It's very frustrating. And this particular article is well worth a read over at Bounding, I assure you.
Yeah, his stuff is good. I mean, I can say in Littlest Mermaid, Aquafina is horrible because that is factual and measurable scientifically.
Yes. I've seen her in a number of projects. She's never stood out. She's bland, boring.
We'll get to that later. I just mentioned it now.
Yeah, we'll run through a few more of these super chats, and then we're going to get into the review of the Littlest Mermaid.
No, we're going to do more of the stuff from culture. Culture. You didn't finish your intro. Aren't we starting with culture?
I already did my intro.
Not your intro.
We're way into the intro.
Yeah. Okay. I thought we were going to do more on it.
Oh,
Culture's a Capricorn. He likes walks on the beach. And I don't know what else.
Yeah, and I like the occasional mimosa with my brunch. And
he likes pina coladas and getting caught in the rain.
Not really. I much prefer a Pinot Noir.
There you go. So, Coco Dragon is a member and has been here for 7 months at the Edgelord level and says TLM could have dropped when Spider-Verse, Transformers, and Flash come out, and then expect the hit pieces to protect Iger legacy, even if it's a bad strategy. Okay, so I think what Coco is saying here is they're dropping this in the midst of all these other films, so when it fails, they can blame it on all the other movies. Kind of like they did with Solo when they dropped it against another Transformer movie and another Disney movie in the name of Pirates of the Caribbean and like 1 or 2 other movies. I can't remember. Minions movie, I think it was at the time, or Despicable 3 or whatever. Yeah, and then they tried to blame that all on everything else.
Yeah, they could have done that, but they're not doing that here because they genuinely think that this is going to net them $1 billion, to which I say good luck with that.
Well, it only did 10 million in previews last night, which calculates out to about what, Culture, for the weekend?
They're figuring somewhere between 110 and 120 domestic, but they're only calculating an international audience of 80 million for the weekend.
Yeah.
Well, that still sounds pretty high for a 10 million preview weekend, because didn't Guardians recently do closer to 20 on its preview night? Like 18, I think it was.
It did pretty well. Like I said, this is not the same thing. This is not a Marvel movie, and it never was going to be.
No, but for it to even come close to that kind of box office, I think that's a little high.
I think it is too. I think they're fudging the numbers. I think they're artificially pushing it, but it does have the benefit of a 4-day weekend because of the holiday.
Well, we're not going to count that.
Well, okay. I'm just saying. I'm telling you why. It's just
money's money.
Yeah, they're looking at it.
I know they will.
Yeah, like I said, it's a pretty decent. I mean, it's better than like Fast, I think, and some other stuff, in their openings.
Did it?
I don't know. I mean, we've had some stuff that have opened or premiered under $9 million in their previews, and they went on to have decent runs. But this film is not going to have legs. The scathing reviews that I've been privy to and or heard from people who've seen the film at this point are really going to outline why people are not going to enjoy the film outside of it being too long for kids.
That was a stupid decision.
So.
Yeah, and we're about to get back into that momentarily. JMD Reed says for $5, it's World Redhead Day today. Oh, really? So glad Disney has celebrated it by erasing another redhead. Yeah, that was on timing, I think.
Wow.
Yeah, today's when he should have dropped Red Sonja.
And interestingly enough, Disney is now promoting a new meet and greet thing in their parks in Florida and Disneyland that you can meet the Little Mermaid. Of course, the face actress that's been cast or shown to be the Little Mermaid face character looks nothing like the Little Mermaid in the film. It's a little more robust and a different hair color. Yeah, so we'll see how that goes over.
Well, on Rotten Tomatoes, it's we know how much we love it. It's got 67% critic score and 95% audience score.
Now, this Little Mermaid at the park, I'm assuming that she has her legs, which means that she can't speak, right? So she has to be mute.
I hope so. I don't know. All I have is the 3 initial reports that came out on it. So
all I know is that people are trying to find the cinema score and they can't find it.
Really?
Yeah. So if you come across that, let me know.
All right.
Well, I wonder if it's going to really match up with the Rotten Tomatoes score. Is my point.
I'm sure we'll get plenty more of that from today as more and more people actually start seeing the movie. And then we have a new member in Thorin Valomieka. So welcome. Welcome back. I believe I've seen you before. And STR Red Wolf says for $5, saw the Barbie movie commercial this morning. I had to mute to limit the amount of cringe I was getting off of it. I hope there's better movies out.
Well, it wasn't made for you, STR Red Wolf.
Yeah.
And I don't mean it facetiously in this case. I mean it for real. Because I'll tell you, the people it's being made for are really enjoying it. Like the girls in the Toxic Femme chat are going off about it. They are just giddy about it. So the audience that they are directing this at is totally into it.
I was very surprised to see Will Ferrell in the trailer.
Yes.
Well, he was in the other trailer too, I think.
He's the bad guy.
I was I knew he was in the movie, so I'm surprised. I thought he was in one.
And I think this movie has every chance of actually being fun for everyone.
It has a Lego movie feeling to it, and I have a theory that we're going to find that out at the end, that's all it is just a couple of little girls playing with Barbies. Because the way the dialogue runs, it runs like when kids play with toys, and they, like the whole thing with, Ken staying overnight, and it's like, well, what are we going to do? I don't know. Like that whole thing,
it's a little darker than I think people anticipated.
There's some tongue-in-cheekness to it,
and the changeover to what happened to her, that we don't know. And I'm certainly interested in finding out what the mechanism that they're using to convert her to a real human.
Well, we had an idea of what the script was before with Amy Schumer. I don't know if they're using the same type of story or not. But.
She leaves Barbie land to experience the real world.
Right.
And, if you watch the trailer, I mean, they're giving the mechanism and all of that a kind of away. I'm going to see it. One of my members sent a massive super chat that basically pays for me to go to the movie and have some snacks. So I'm kind of forced to go see Barbie. But to be fair, I would have probably seen the film anyway, because, it's one of those that I'm going to go see No Hard Feelings as well. That's the J-Law film that looks like trash, but I'm going to go see that.
Actually, I think it looks fun, to be fair. But,
okay. All right. I think Barbie will be a good film. I have high hopes.
I have better hopes for it now. I saw the trailer in the theater and people had a good reaction to it.
Oh, it's very funny. I mean, and the trailer hits pretty well. I mean, it does. So.
Yeah, most of the jokes seem to land, and I see the satirical nature of it, and it's definitely made for kids of the 80s and 90s to bring their daughters to. So, I think it's going to be a surprise hit this summer.
I think it's a wine spritzer movie.
Yeah, yeah,
and they're listening to their audience, because the one thing the girls griped about when the second trailer came out, and the first one for that matter, and the story came out that they were planning on not using the Barbie Girl song. It's in the end of this trailer now. It's a remix of it, but it's in there.
And I like you said, I mean, that's always a good sign. Look at what happened with Sonic. I mean, like you said, this, and I think Paul's right there. I think you're going to get a lot of date night traffic on this.
There's some Sonic vibes with this too. It feels like a 90s movie. It feels like if we would have gotten a Barbie movie in the 90s, this would have been the story.
Yeah, I'm gonna watch it. It'll get a review that I'll post on Friday right after I see it, and you can take it to the bank what I think, if you agree with me.
The movie knows what it's about.
Exactly.
And, it's funny how iconic they start with the trailer where she takes her foot out of her high heels and she's still on her toes. And the change of her suddenly being able to put her heel down is a shock to everyone in her world. I thought that was extremely cool. I thought that's a small thing that's a big thing.
Well, they're playing with a lot of... Oh, go ahead, Script.
Well, I wonder if they'll explore the joke or explore a joke with regards to how there used to be a pregnant Barbie up until like 2002.
Really?
And then they had to get rid of her because parents didn't like the idea of a pregnant Barbie. I wonder if that could be some sort of thing that lingers as a joke in this film towards the end.
Well, it's interesting because, Margot Robbie's on the record in the last couple of days in one of the trade papers saying that she was trying to not sexualize Barbie. She was trying to remove that aspect. And obviously, I mean, that's also in the trailer. I mean, it carries over there.
Well, that quote from her, I think she missed what she meant to say, but like, it was right. It was there in the what she was saying.
That is correct. That's the correct way to play her.
She said, we sexualize Barbie, but she's not supposed to be sexy. I think you mean it the other way around. Because she goes on to explain, and it's like, I think you meant it the other way around, the way you're explaining this.
If you didn't read the entire context of that and just looked at the headline, you were going to be taken aback by it. But if you read the whole thing, you're like, well, that's not what she actually meant after she explains herself. Because again, people misstate things all the time when they're trying to convey a point. So it's that one line out of context.
So let's keep moving on though. But you could STR Red Wolf, it wasn't really made for you, so I wouldn't expect you to be on board with it. But that's all right. We'll have to wait and see what the ladies think, because they're all excited about it. Dr. Longdongler sends us a thumbs up. Thank you so much for that. Hit that thumbs up if you haven't already. It does help us here at the channel. Ash Boehner, I think that's how you say it. Ash Boehner. Good morning, panel. Thanks for all you do. It's my birthday today. Well, hello and happy birthday, Ash. And Disney failing, the Little Mermaid and Disney failing would make for a great birthday gift. Well, when birthdays happen around here, we do a thing.
Oh, that's right. Well, actually, we don't. He does.
Yes, that's right. And I get paid $20 to do this, by the way. Which you owe me. You owe me, and you owe me. Okay. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Insert kid's name here. Happy birthday to you. Where's my $20?
I'll PayPal it to you.
Better.
I'm good for mine. I'm good.
And do it as a friend. Otherwise, they charge me, you jerk.
I know, that's weird, huh? Strange. Thanks, Bad Tom.
At least somebody thanked him. And we have another guest joining us this morning. The one, the only Jonas J. Campbell. How are you doing?
I am doing fantastic. How are you guys doing?
We're glad to have you here.
Standing ovulation.
Yeah, especially those of us that haven't seen a certain movie yet. I saw that WDW Pro. He was really suffering on Twitter to the point that he was like missing us yesterday.
He was texting me during the movie. It's just it sounds like boredom.
Okay, so you haven't seen it yet.
No, I haven't, and I don't intend to see it until it comes out on streaming. Hey, Dr. Long Dongler. Good to see you.
I don't intend to see it. I'm just going to watch all the cringe scenes when somebody cuts together a super YouTube cut, kind of like with Cats.
Well, I anticipate Jonas putting together a everything woke about Little Mermaid.
I do intend to. I've got quite the backlog these days. If I can get a little bit more independent financially, I will dedicate more time to the channel.
Understood.
But welcome. We're just getting started here with some super chats, and then we're going to listen to what Paul thought of the Little Mermaid. Excuse me. Zontar is here, and he's got some racing news for Mr. Chato.
Oh, yes,
thank 550 you. Canadian. It says rain expected in Monaco and Charlotte, but it's sunny in Indianapolis this Sunday. For the Indianapolis. I can't say Indianapolis. Sorry. 500 and the greatest spectacle in motor sports. There you go. Then he goes on to say, this message brought to you by Scott Dixon, the GOAT Foundation, and the Make Mexican Iron Man Watch IndyCar Alliance. I don't know if you can get him to do that.
Well, MMIMWIA. Then does it spell something?
Mimwia?
No. Mimwia.
Mimwia.
Thank you, Zontar, and good luck with that. Psychotic has been a member for 8 months. Thank you so much. Cranberry Crunch says, if the rumors are true about Indy having lost hope and then he ends up being selfish, two things that go against his character. Indy is not the equivalent or TLJ character assassination.
It is the equivalent.
Okay. It depends on the reason as to why he's lost hope, because if he's just lost hope for the sake of losing hope, that's one thing. If the rumors are true and that he has lost someone that he loves and is therefore in grieving, that's a different form. But again, it all depends on how you execute that.
I look, if everything coming out, the leaks, the people that have seen it, and now we're seeing like a consistency to a pattern of the disclosures that are being made. This is another character assassination, and I think this film's going to end up in the bin.
I mean, I don't know if the ending fixes anything, because people say it feels so convoluted, but it does sound like they went with the happy ending of the few that they had to go with. But I guess we'll have to wait and see. As far as it being the equivalent of The Last Jedi, I don't know on that level. It might be. I mean, there's just so many sins with this film going into it that I just don't see how it can pull it off. If the end of that's true and she punches him and knocks him out, first of all, ridiculous. She weighs about 3 pounds.
Yeah, but he's 80.
True, but dude crashes planes regular. So, I mean, he's fine.
That's the actor, not Indy.
It's true. Yeah. Well, we'll see, but it's going to be trash. The last thing I want to see is Harrison Ford destroy another one of his iconic characters, because he's been complicit in it every time.
And he is now as well, so you're going to get it, whether you want it or not.
Yeah.
Yay.
He's just stepping up to his marker and saying his lines. If someone gave him better lines, he'd be happy to say them.
Yeah. Remember, it's a job to actors. More first and foremost.
It's a job, yeah.
Yeah.
You're a plumber.
Max Relax has been a member for 20 months.
Without
and,
butt crack.
Six would like to remind you to mod that chat, Andre.
Technically, wasn't he a carpenter?
Yeah, I was
Yes,
gonna say
He
that.
was.
He was.
But here's the other thing that's kind of fascinating. Only actors that are finding themselves very in between jobs for long periods of time do they go back to watch the stuff they were in and actually understand and discover the reverence that fans had for their work. It before then they don't care because they're too busy working, and it's just a job for them.
And I do believe Harrison Ford was on record as saying he's never actually watched the Indiana Jones movies until pretty recently.
Wow.
I would not be surprised.
That's contrary to his public statements where he says that it's been his favorite character to play.
That doesn't mean he watched them, though.
That's not the same as watching it.
I'm sorry. I naturally think he's a human being.
I know culture, but you have to remember we are talking about people who normally don't.
And they don't. Why does he have to watch it? He's lived it essentially. He's.
This is the Star Trek problem we've talked about before, where like you have like these guys who pay no attention to what's really going on the show, but yet they think they have input. And when they input something, it's usually doom buggies and pew pews.
Well, I mean, he's.
Listen, if you want to see a great modern day example, and also the frustration with regards to a person that has taste, check out Michael Rosenbaum's Talkville podcast, where he actually fans are having fun with him because he's crapping on the show because he's actually got a sense of taste, and he's never seen it before. But he watched it and he has memories of doing it.
But he has no illusions of what it was either at the same time, right?
Oh, like, I mean,
I've watched the podcast. It's a good show.
The dude is stoned constantly. You'd think he'd like watch some of his old films while he's like getting high. So no, I'm talking about Ford.
Harrison. Oh, Ford? Yeah. No, he'd watch something else. He watched something more esoteric if he was going to get.
He's busy flying.
Yeah, Ford gets his assistants to watch the movie and tell him how good he is in it.
That's the problem with Hollywood. Let me tell you.
Get off my set. So anyway, Andre, did you get my message and Six's message about modding the new mod group?
Working on it as we speak.
Awesome. All right, Horseradish Power has been a member for 7 months and says, reminder, Disney is the OCP of Hollywood. Yes. And is now at RoboCop 3 stage. I like that analogy. That's pretty good, actually.
That's true. Yeah.
All bets are now off. Can they even survive to the end of the year? Well, I know we keep talking about like whether or not Disney could survive or not. Disney is always going to survive.
I'll be fine.
But they're going to lose Delta City.
They got problems. I mean, and look, I mean, you know, we've bantered about this before, but you know, they're so financially tied to a couple of entities that will literally could tear the company apart. And both of them are theme parks, and they're both located in a communist socialist country, whichever you want to call China. Those things are lead weights around their ankles. And if one thing goes wrong with China, they've lost billions of dollars immediately.
Right. Some basic game theory here says that they need to do what Bob Chapek was doing and shore up their problems overseas before they're taken completely out of their control. They need to probably accept a loss if not peace should happen with China.
Yeah.
I would have backed up the Cube van and taken all the exhibits out of Disney World and skipped in the evening.
Yep.
Yeah, like I said, I mean, Shanghai and Hong Kong, those are nothing but those are dead weights now, and that'll be expressed very soon. And not to mention the fact that as global economies crash and Germany's headed into a recession, and we're already there, but they won't ever say that. You'll have no funds to travel. Not that they're going to let you travel in the future, and you'll have no way to support these parks. So I mean, the 70% of positive revenue from the theme parks isn't going. That number is going to decline rapidly, and I think it's already has. Park attendance is down substantially. Their cash cow is about toast.
But
that's going to be a fun earnings call when all that happens.
I was Disney, I wouldn't have put a cent into any of those parks. I would have just licensed the name and let other people build it and deal with it.
That's a deal they've already worked out with Oriental Land Company in Tokyo. Tokyo Disneyland and Disney Sea are operated by OLC. And Disney says, well, we're going to pay for upgrading your Splash Mountain to this new thing. And
Japanese went, no.
It's like, nah, bro, we're keeping the thing people like here. So yeah, no. Yeah, the OLC can do whatever they want.
They had some guy in the background turn up the volume on Zippity Doo Dah while he was talking.
So Disney funded the Hong Kong and Chinese ventures?
They in participation with the supposed company that operates them, which is just the CCP government.
Right. No, I wouldn't have put a cent in. Just
well, there are rumors, and if this ever gets out in the world, there was a significant portion of graft that was paid for Shanghai. Oh yeah, and there is almost $500 million that is just literally missing from that project.
Yeah. Many cents were paid on that.
Yeah.
What's their loss in just walking away from all the Chinese ventures?
I think it's $5 to $6 billion. Jonas, correct me if I'm wrong. Somewhere in there.
I'm still doing research on how much that would be.
Yeah.
And those parks get closed down at the drop of a hat.
Yeah.
That would be quite an earnings call if that were to happen.
That's what I would do.
All I'm going to point out is that Shanghai is Iger's big legacy, and he's got a lot of that to spread around. But Hong Kong, he might be more willing to let go of that one because that's Eisner's legacy.
Well, and he might be willing to let go of the European park as well. But here, we are talking. This is the weird thing we just segued into. We're talking about the contraction of Disney. At the same time, Universal's expanding wildly. I mean, it's really a weird world. We're in a strange timeline right now.
Speaking of strange timelines, Alexander Tant says, Flash News director reveals Nic Cage as Superman. Yeah, we've been hearing this for a while for those who've been keeping up with the rumors, news, and leaks. I think they're doing this because they have to explain to the audience why. And this is what I said before. Because only a select few people are going to understand why.
Well, just talking about Universal at the showing of Little Mermaid last night during during the preamble where they show upcoming movies, Imagination Studios, is that what they're called? Illumination Studios. They pulled a Disney in that they did a trailer for no specific movie, but every single one of their past successes.
Wow.
And I went, and the audience is going through it going, love it, love it, love it, saw it, love it, saw it. And then Disney, then they showed the 100th anniversary of Disney, and everyone went,
is that Illumination's way of like doing a little mushroom stamp on Disney's head or what?
And I mean, if the punchline to the Illumination one was Mario, like kabang, like it was like this ski ramp of interest and fun and entertainment and colorful yellow things and brightly colored shit, and then bang, they went, and we are the people who did Mario Brothers, and the audience.
I haven't seen that. I'll have to see that. I wonder if it's
on my God, YouTube. I was completely shocked. It was just a branding commercial for Illumination Studios.
And you know what? And it's genius because they have so destroyed Disney's market share of animation. They Illumination, Universal, and what DreamWorks, which is their other partner, right? Their other partner studio. They've had the first place animation for 4 years running, and there's no end in sight. But
it's a style. What they showed was, this is our style. This is our stake. This is the kind of stuff we do.
Yep.
And it was really effective. I was shocked.
And that's not even counting DreamWorks.
Correct.
and the entire other portfolio that they also own. Amazing.
The Disney stuff was just tired and old.
Tennille says, oh no, you mean Disney O'Doyle rules it with Little Mermaid? If only we'd known. I'm not, I know the reference, but I'm trying to understand what Tennille means by this.
Are the O'Doyles the inbred family from It's Always Sunny?
No, Billy Madison.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, O'Doyle rules. Like every class has one of them. They always pick on him. I'm trying to figure out what he. Is it because they went off the cliff in their redheads? Is that it?
I think they're driving off the cliff and cheering.
In the redheads, maybe that's it. Okay. All right. Well, on that note, let's see what Paul thought about this movie because he's actually seen the piece of shit. I mean, Little Mermaid.
It's a fair to middling movie that I would have no problem taking my 3-year-old daughter to. And go ahead.
I was going to ask you, at what point would she fall asleep?
That I can't tell you, but I'm just saying that it hits the right beats and it ends with them romantically entangled. So,
at what point would you have to take your 3-year-old daughter for a bathroom break? Because I would have to plan that when taking my kids to the theater.
It's got 3 pieces that you could just pull out.
When does the Aquafina rap happen? Then, Andre.
You know what? The audience loved the Aquafina rap.
Wow.
Lies and deceit, from what I've heard.
Pardon me, what?
Everybody else I heard said it was cringe as hell.
I'm just telling you what, like I'm trying to review this dispassionately as not as objet des arts, and I'm not trying to compare it to the original movie. How do I say that?
I don't believe you.
I'm just telling you that the half full theater laughed at that rap sequence. I'm just telling you. I'm not trying to tell you whether I liked it or not. There was the crazy, stupid scene in the village where she's running around the stalls. That could have gone. The song Eric sings as he's running up and down the ramparts. That could have gone. Although it did give Eric a bit more screen time. Really, the thing that I found most interesting, and and I would imagine was their biggest challenge, was creating unified look, because you take a look at the animation, the original animation, both the undersea stuff and the stuff on land all look the same because it was all part of one animation. Here, if you're trying to match what they're trying to do, so you've got the reality of the stuff happening on the land, the undersea stuff was a complete confused mess because it was a combination of realistic National Geographic fish amongst the Australian coral reef looking stuff to 3D animated underwater versions of what was in the original animated version, but come to life, but is still, weirdly connected to the original. And then they had realistic looking parts, like the bottom part, the fishy parts of Ariel and King Triton. Well, it would look very nice. I mean, it looked like the angel, not the angelfish, but the goldfish with the, stop it, down boy. And so that there was stuff that worked really well. The faces kind of looked like they were pasted on, like from the Monty Python movie, from the one where they were all in the fish tank. And so again, just completely inconsistent. Ursula was a 3D animated version of the original animation, whereas other characters looked real. They couldn't decide, how it was going to look. Frankly, if I was art directing this movie, I would have tried to make all the undersea people look as real as possible in that James Cameron Na'vi way. Because, and the other thing that they did with the thing that I found really, really off-putting is that the camera went anywhere There was completely like a 3D. I've done 3D, and you can do this 3D bullshit where the camera can go anywhere that you want. Whereas one of the things that made Pixar amazing, and no one really talks about this, is that they actually restricted the 3D animated camera to movie style camera movements. You could tell when they were using a crane shot. You could tell when they were using a dolly. You could tell when it was fixed or it was a body cam or a steady cam. So it kind of felt cinematic because in your lizard brain, you had this fixed feeling of what a movie looks like, the way a movie is shot. And that was one of Pixar's geniuses. This thing here, the camera's going anywhere you want it to go. And I think that was a huge mistake. And there was the problem where in the animation, when King Triton came out of the water, he still looked like King Triton. Here, when Javier Bardem, exited the water, he looked like a drowning rat.
Wow.
So that was the problem, is that he needed to look like a dolphin out of SeaWorld, where he comes out of the water majestically, not like he's like freezing to death, waiting to get a robe put on him between takes. I mean, so they just couldn't, the art direction is terrible on this. It's inconsistent.
So they needed something like the old Hawaii 5-0 where Dano takes off the helmet, but still somehow he's got perfect hair.
That's exactly what you were missing from this. And so the movie is not bad. It's just bad. I don't know how to explain it. It's like, would I take my daughter to it if she's never seen the original? Yeah. It's a 2-hour, 15-minute movie. It's a good waste of time. It's not offensive. And the thing is, the girl and the boy get together at the very end. I mean, there were rumors that Ariel would, go off and she don't need no man, right? No, that's not the case.
Whoa, wait a minute.
She's pining for Eric.
But didn't they substantially change what happens to Ursula at the end?
Ursula, no. Ursula dies because Ariel kills.
Right.
Yeah, but you know what? I didn't mind it at all. I didn't care.
Oh, no. She didn't need no man.
No, she didn't need no man to kill Ursula.
Right.
And in a sense, that was actually the better ending, because she's the protagonist, Ursula's the antagonist, and they needed to have it out together. I actually preferred this ending from a writing perspective.
Wow. Okay, so not healthy. We team up, man and woman working together, kind of a thing.
No. Well, in a sense, they did, in that he was distracting Ursula on another ship, and if he wasn't distracting her on purpose, then the Little Mermaid or Ariel would not have been able to, move the vessel around. Now, the other thing too is, because she was in fish form, it was a major, in quote, struggle for her to get to the wheel. So it wasn't a Mary Sue moment. She didn't just like leap to the wheel. No, she was struggling to get to it. And it was her very last amount of energy and ability to get to the wheel that got her to turn it around and aimed it at Ursula. But if Eric wasn't distracting her, she wouldn't have been killed. So I didn't mind it. We didn't need a guy to take out Ursula.
I think it's very Mary Sue, because that is Eric's part, because then she ends up saving him anyway.
Yeah,
he almost drowns.
Yeah, and it's not reciprocal any longer. So again, what's the point?
It didn't. Well, yeah. But that's mermaid legends of mermaids saving drowning seamen. That's not an unusual.
I almost made an inappropriate joke.
What we needed for context was some mermaids that were drowning other male sailors who fell overboard, so that we all understand how great Ariel is.
They did talk about the fact that the people on land talked about how the mermaids were actually a vile group of people that have killed many of their past
other sailors. Yeah,
they talked about that.
I do have a question.
The Legend of the Sirens.
And that's how Ursula gets Eric, because
they did change another part of the ending that you skipped over. They don't get married in this one either.
No, but they're hanging out. They're
dating at that.
They're together at the end, and they're in love, and they get shoved onto a ship, and they get to sail off together.
Oh well, who's driving the ship?
Eric is rowing the rowboat towards the ship.
Okay.
So I've heard, and I would love to get your take on this, that there's a scene where they have forgotten that the bird Scuttle cannot breathe underwater.
Yes, it's stupid.
How?
But if you're a 3-year-old, you don't care. I was constantly trying to go, I'm a 3-year-old. Do I care? I was just trying to be very realistic about this movie and not go in and hate on it. I'm getting so many comments on my video saying, well, the original was better. None of the kids who went to the movie last night saw the original. Like, people need to get that out of their heads. So is it good enough to be a success? Yes. If Disney's baggage was not so bad. Like, I would say that if Disney's brand was not so broken, this would have been a successful film.
But again, this is a social engineering moment, because if none of those 3-year-olds have seen the original film, this is a change of history for them and a change of the film entirely. Again, I will not see this in the theaters. I'm not going to,
That's how we're seeing on streaming.
Well, then I'm screwed, because I want to watch it so I can speak more literally about it in a way that's more educated, because I feel like I'm not quite as informed as you've seen the film. But I can't imagine how in any context any of those changes are additive to this. I also don't think the film, being as long as it is conducive to a so-called 3-year-old, Paul.
Right. And I completely agree with you.
Yeah.
But you got to get the idea of changes out of your mind. The movie is on its own. You have to judge it on its own merits, as if nothing else existed.
Well, I think that's the problem here, of course, is that the entire concept of the Disney live action remake is, we need you to remember how the other one made you feel in order to bring your kids to watch
this Marxist, neo-Marxist presentation.
I think it's how the parents remembered it. The kids will have not watched the original.
That's not true. I've watched little people watch these films before they got the live action remakes, and believe me,
I think that Paul has a good point there. Many of we will have seen the original, but the kids in here, I think the majority of them have never seen the original. Have no nostalgia for it.
No, with streaming, I don't think that's the case. They won't have nostalgia for seeing it in the theaters, but my little ones
interested in seeing it, because it's like old 2D animation. That's like old. They don't care.
I keep hearing that, but I'm an old guy. I've watched young people, my nieces and nephews and so on and so forth, youngins, watch these 2D animated films with no complaints and loving them and repeating them and cycling them through multiple times, whether it be streaming, DVD, Blu-ray, whatnot. And that has been true for my entire adult experience in watching my young relatives watch these films, even up until just a couple of years ago. So while I understand that they're exposed to a lot of different media styles now, and that the 3D might be more entertaining, it just hasn't been. And I know that's anecdotal, but it's no more anecdotal than what your guys are saying. It's just, my observations of many people are they love the old stuff. So
and I did not get the sense at the theater that a single kid had seen the original.
Wow. Well, and again, that wouldn't surprise me.
The fascinating thing is going to be, like, Encanto bombed at the theater and is a hit. Is a hit on streaming. It's one of the greatest hits that Disney Plus has ever had. The question will be, can it keep a child's attention when it's sitting there on a set-top box that could also at the same time have a streamer, or it could at the same time have some YouTube channel or any other thing in the Disney library? This is the problem, that kids are now used to instant access to pretty much anything. I wonder if a 2.5 hour film, or whatever is this one, is it really 2.5 hours?
2:15.
Yikes. And in my house, Super Mario Brothers movie on repeat, and they're looking forward to watching it again on Sunday. I'm sure they'll get 4 more rewatches in before then, if Daddy has too much work to do. My goodness. I think if the movie is fine, then it won't hit the numbers it needs to hit, and it won't hit the numbers in streaming that it needs to hit either.
It's not a joyous experience. It's not magic. It's not magical, but they hit the landing with Ariel and Eric. So if you're a romantic little girl, you're going to be really happy with how Eric and Ariel ended and how that worked out.
The only thing I'll add, and Tom said something about this in the private chat, and Michelle from Force of Light was on the Pro Show yesterday and said, "What's the fun in them getting engaged? You've set the bar so much lower here for romance if it's a fantasy." She doesn't like the idea of them getting engaged or it being an engagement party that gets.
Well, there's no engagement party. They just go off together.
So she's saying that when Ursula poses as the Little Mermaid, they're interrupting an engagement party as opposed to the wedding, so the stakes are lowered.
Oh, okay. I didn't notice that.
Yeah.
I just like you said. I mean, it now we're just going to run off together and live in sin. I mean, okay, okay, well done.
Well, you can get married on
like
the boat.
Engagement. Yeah,
you don't know.
Any captain can perform a marriage ceremony.
They were going to Vegas.
Okay, on the boat.
On the boat, you could see the sign. There was a sign saying,
"Is there like an Ursula-shaped dent on the boat?"
I like to picture them in the back of the boat, sitting there. And they realize what they've just done, and they look at each other like the end of The Graduate, and then cut to credits.
So, I mean, this movie is a confused mess, and I would love to find out who had the initial vision for the artistic direction and how much manipulation and network notes, or not network, but studio notes were there that confused it, because it's just confusing. It's realistic, not realistic. It's just a whole mishmash, and maybe some executive said, "Yeah, it'd be really good if the bird could speak underwater." Really, there's just so much stuff in there. On the other hand, as I say in my review, I took my daughter to see Barney live 3 times. Is this movie worse than Barney? No.
Oh, Barney's the worst.
Yeah, but my daughter loved Barney. You have to put this stuff into context, and people are constantly going, "Whoa, it's not as good as the first movie, and there's a black girl, and da 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 da." And as I said at the the intro before we went live, the one real issue I had with the diversity of this, which most kids won't really care, I'm keep saying that. From my perspective, it looked like a grade school play of doing Ulysses, where everyone in the class gets to play something in the play, and generally speaking, it's all miscast from a racial perspective. The movie felt like a grade school play. That's what it felt like to me.
I think if this movie came out 5 years ago, definitely hitting $1 billion. I don't know in the current environment.
Yeah, I would say, as bad as it is, probably yes. But Disney's brand is so busted. I don't think
race crap aside, though, Paul, I got to say, though, I've been sitting here for the last half hour. Basically, it's like somebody making excuses for Gus Van's Psycho. Like, we've gotten to this point where Disney's done this 5, 6, 7 times now, and people just treat it like it's normal.
Well, I mean, it is what it is. You have to take it at face value and either go to the movie or not go to the movie.
Well, I'm just saying it because you keep not dismissing, but you push aside the original. It's like, people had a valid point when it came to Psycho, and that's really all Aladdin, The Lion King, and all these are almost beat for beat, shot for shot remakes of the original, like Psycho was.
Sure. And did we need a 3D version of Lion King?
Exactly my point. Yeah.
And I make the point in my review that this is a way to maintain IPs.
Yeah,
that's really the goal of this. That's
in their particular version of the story. I mean,
their version of the story. That's all they're doing is protecting their version of the story. They can't have a movie disappear after 50 years, or was it 75 years? What's
something of that nature. I mean, the other part too is that the majority of the hits of Disney made, at least on the animation side of thing, are of public domain IPs. They had to reorganize them so that they can make a copyright claim on that to justify merchandising and profit and future profits.
They want to reassert their dominance on that IP. Around the time that Mary Poppins came out, Bob Iger said it was a brand deposit, which that was also near the time that Johnny Lee Hancock did Saving Mr. Banks. And they had a Mary Poppins ride that was in the works at Epcot. there was a lot going on in that space.
There was also an unauthorized. Well, there was also a quote unquote unauthorized play that was touring the UK and Europe of Mary Poppins that Disney was not very happy about, but couldn't do anything to stop.
So, Paul, I 100% agree with you that this is trying to put some resurgence on a brand.
Yep.
I don't know if they can keep showing up with this trick and getting $1 billion for it. I think this has gotten
this won't make $1 billion. Again, I mentioned in a previous Midnight's Edge, their problem is not the remake so much as the fact that they're not making good new stuff.
Yes.
No.
And if you're making good new stuff and then throw in the odd remake like this, then it's not a bad way to do business.
It's a good formula, but we haven't had a new Mickey Mouse cartoon or anything.
No.
In I don't know how many decades. Goofy, the last thing of Goofy I can think of was the one with him and his son on the road trip. And that was like what, 24 years ago? Maybe.
Oh yeah, fantastic movie. And Disney didn't even understand what they had on their hands there with that film.
And you have like
who remember seeing Donald Duck in anything?
Like weird California animation style, and you have like the
Art.
outside of stuff on Disney XD. For instance, something of the traditional Disney characters on the big screen. It's been decades. I mean, you have to go back to the previous millennia.
I will have to say maybe it's Stockholm syndrome because I've had to watch a lot of them. I appreciate those Disney, the new style, Ren and Stimpy-ish style Mickey Mouse cartoons, because there is some actual creativity. There's some classic cartoon style gags updated for the new generation there. I would say that's one of the better things that the Disney company has done within the last 5 years. I'll speak up. I'll be a Paul Chato and stand up for my unpopular opinion.
Yeah. You're allowed.
You're a very flexible parent to have Disney in your house. When I grew up, I didn't see my first Disney movie till I was 12, and I was Mary Poppins, and it was in school, not at home. And I didn't see Little Mermaid till college. So I grew up without any Disney influence, other than the fact that when I was 10-ish, no 8, we went to Disney World, and I didn't care because I was more interested in all the other stuff that was around Orlando.
Well, and to the defense of people, because like I grew up with Disney too, it's just back then there was an innocence to it, right? In fact, it was so bad that you hit a phase where you're like, okay, I'm done with Disney shit now. Because you notice that it's basically made for kids, and you're just like, that's not for me. And you know, when you get to be a teenager, it's not cool to be seen going to see the new Disney movie.
And that's why Eisner branched out and went into various other types of entertainment. And he created new nameplates like Touchstone and Hollywood Pictures and others. I mean, Eisner had the right idea. He's the one that reinvigorated. He's the guy that made these classics like Little Mermaid and so on and so forth.
He created the vault system.
Yeah, I mean, look
at Aladdin with
Robin Williams.
That was just one. I mean, we watched that movie to death.
That was actually more Katzenberg that pulled that one off.
Lightning in a bottle, indeed. And it, like I said, it's very, very different now. There is no family feeling to Disney. This film felt like, you know, a corporate committee filmmaking, you know, and just from the trailer alone. So yeah,
I agree. I completely agree. But still, you know, these are corporatized entities. You can even go back to Beauty and the Beast, where the live action was not as good as the animation. I mean, I think if I remember, they took out the terrific song with you know, the guy talking about how, you know, his muscles and how great I am. I mean, that, you know, we used to sing that all the time. But the live action still made $1.2 billion. So that was a happy accident.
A ridiculous amount of money for a movie like that.
They all did really, really well.
And that's the problem here.
That's the problem.
I have to say this, Disney accidentally fell into a gold mine with the extended adolescence of American culture.
That's a well put.
And now that's starting to turn on them because that adolescence has reached a very negative phase that is pointing towards, I'll say, self-sterilization. So it did well for a little while to have the entire culture, the people who like having kids and the people who maybe theoretically like being kids, being on the same page about Disney. I think that other older demographic is getting away from that and doesn't want to involve the next generation of children there. They have to fix the image.
Well, and they really do, Jonas. I mean, you're losing Disney quote unquote lifestylers. You know, they move on, they get older, they can't afford to, you know, spend $10,000 on a park trip 3 or 4 times a year. They can't, you know, be these avid collectors that they used to be, and the financial circumstance isn't going to contribute well to that in the future either. You know, and this film is suffering under the weight of a lot of bad reviews. You know, just to take it back to that, but Disney's reputation is destroyed. Jonas, you're 100% right, and they are actively destroying it in the name of these, you know, neo-Marxist ideals, and that comes into play in all their filmmaking, even in their theme parks, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, and, you guys were debating on, you know, comparing it to the original, and I know, Paul, you know, you have a point. A lot of kids may not ever see the original, or this is going to be their original, or they don't, you know, and that was another thing I was told by multiple people who are animators, and the reason that they started doing this was because they tried to re-release all these movies in 3D. That didn't work, the original versions, that is. Then they just went back to just re-releasing them, and Aladdin, I believe, was the last one, and it didn't do very well. So you're not wrong there. Like, but the problem is kids are so used to having them on video.
Aladdin, you mean you're talking about the live action Aladdin?
No, I'm talking about the last time they ever released the animated versions of these films. It was about 10 years ago. They released Lion King, Aladdin, Little Mermaid. They got Little Mermaid and Lion King and Beauty and the Beast, I believe, all transferred to 3D.
Oh, that stupid 3D shit.
Well, regardless, they did not do well. Yeah. Neither did Aladdin. Aladdin was the last one they released. They just didn't even bother trying to do the 3D thing with that. It still didn't do well. After that moment is where they decided we have to start doing something different. This was the point where they said kids don't like 2D animation. And they said, we're going to try and remake these movies. Like things like Maleficent took off. Things like Maleficent took off. So that was kind of their testing ground for actually remaking these, right? Like Maleficent and those movies were kind of like looking at the original story from a different perspective. But because they got away with that and they seen how it worked, that was their inspiration for just flat out remaking their original animated films. And when, like you said, once they started hitting $1 billion each, you know, there was no reason not to.
Even the Will Smith one, I think, hit $1 billion.
They all did, except for Mulan and Dumbo, pretty much.
Well, Mulan was wretched.
And Dumbo was one of the earlier ones, too.
Yeah, so. And Dumbo was one of the earlier ones.
And Dumbo, yeah.
And actually, it's one of the few they actually tried some. See, that's the thing. Jungle Book, Dumbo, they actually tried to do something a little different than the original. And clearly, Dumbo didn't work. People seem to gravitate towards I think they noticed that people were like, oh, they like the fact that you have the original songs because people praised them for that. But they also missed the part where they praised them for doing something a little original within the context of the original Disney story. Because from then on, they just basically redid the original.
Yeah, that was so weird.
Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin, and all that stuff. We're just going to redo the original, use all the same music and everything.
Yeah, it was like a summary of the movie, and then they added in that Danny DeVito stuff. So weird.
But it's hard to disconnect the original from the remakes now. And Tennille brings up this point, and this is why I wanted to bring this up now. The original is so integrated into modern culture that comparisons to the original are as inevitable as they are unfavorable. And this was the same thing, or was true of, and it first came up with Ghostbusters being remade. Because this was my main point of this. We were the first generation to grow up with VHS and cable in the home, to where you got to see these movies all the time. Like when they remade King Kong back in '76, the chances of you actually seeing the original Kong, unless you were older than 30, were pretty slim.
Mm-hmm.
Like, because they didn't show it on television all the fucking time, and it wasn't re-released all the fucking time. We didn't have video. So that was kind of like seeing a new movie. Back then, to do a remake like King Kong with new modern technology was a little bit different. You know, we saw the same thing kind of with Peter Jackson's version in a way. But even by that point, people had seen the 76 and the original Kong, so they were comparing it to those. And I think you have the same problem here when Ghostbusters came out. Everybody was comparing it to the original. Why? Because everybody knows the original by heart. And they have seen it a million times because most people own the video, they own the DVD, they own the Blu-ray now. It's difficult to disconnect from those old films as compared to what it was back when they used to remake movies a lot, because they just wanted to modernize them because people hadn't seen them in a while. They would revive and re-release certain movies, but not every movie was a Wizard of Oz or Gone with the Wind where they could get away with that. So of course they would just turn around and remake it. Or they would make something like
But
it, like when you had like Rat Race.
You can't compare Ghostbusters to The Little Mermaid.
I'm not comparing the movies as a whole, but I'm comparing them in a sense that The Little Mermaid is integrated into our mythology now, like Ghostbusters was when they decided to remake
the different. Okay, but here's the difference. Hear me out on this. Is that me as a original Ghostbuster fan, because it was an adult movie, I'm going to be interested in each new Ghostbuster movie from here on in. Littlest Mermaid was a movie primarily for kids. The fact that adults liked it is a happy accident. So it is going to be very much generational, whereas Ghostbusters is not. You're going to in the sense of Ghostbuster, which was the mistake of Ghostbusters 2016, was that they pissed off the base. It's the same problem with Star Wars and Marvel, is that they're pissing off the base, whereas a Little Mermaid is not pissing off the base. I mean, you've got parents who have the ability, who might have seen The Little Mermaid, who refuse to go to the movie to take their kid because they're insulted by the new movie. But I'm saying that that's going to be in the minority.
I would agree with you, Paul, and I would state it a different way. I would say most of the problems of Little Mermaid are not on the screen right now.
Yes, I would say you're correct. It's a mediocre movie that would do much better if Disney's brand was not so broken.
I will say this, and then I know Jonas has to leave us, but I feel like the reason that all of the Disney animations, the classics from Eisner's era, were successful was because they appealed simultaneously to both the younger and older audience. They played on both levels. So they were not oriented around just children. They targeted a broader demographic set. Maybe they weren't fully for a quadrant films, but they were easily enjoyed by parents and children alike. They had a clear messaging, and they played on two levels. That's just the way it is.
And that to me is a happy accident.
Not if it's planned.
No, I don't think it's planned. I think you do a children's movie and you hope that as many people like it. How many parents hated? I go back to Barney. Parents hated Barney. Their kids loved it. We took our kids to see Barney because of our kids.
Parents hate Caillou. Some kids love it. Caillou is written by weird people.
I hate Caillou.
Exactly. The other part too, and this is usually what I get during the assignment process.
From Blue's Clues.
Yeah,
I want to punch him.
Well, the assignments for any type of kids movie it has this one: write it for kids, but remember parents have to watch this too, and that's the mandate. And basically, so you have to throw in something there that'll make the parents at least relatively at ease or pleased that they're taking their kids to see this talking shoe fighting a skateboard or something like the story.
I'm now compelled to watch Little Mermaid, the original animation, again and write down all the lines that are oriented around adult understandings and not
it'd be interesting,
because again, a lot of these Disney films of that era were written so that they played to both children and adults. And there were lines for the adults and there were lines for the kids. So this is, a little different.
But that's the thing about Disney, though. They write this to appeal to adults and children, but their aim is children, and they're hoping for the tolerance. And they want adults to latch onto it. But Eisner was specifically saying that he wants the cool stuff for the grown-ups and the teenagers, but he wanted the kid stuff for kids. I have to say.
And this is a very intersectional diversity, equity, inclusivity movie.
Wow.
I mean, it is, but it is because of the varied casting in the way that I mentioned my school play idea. But a kid who goes to see this is not going to be necessarily inculcated. It's just going to be part of whatever. I can't talk anymore.
I gotta go.
Yes, Jonas, thank you for hopping in here. Did we read the super chat that's on screen here?
Sure. You want? I'll read my own. Super
read
chat
it as Morgan Freeman.
Jonas J. Campbell for $5. Script Doctor. Are there known production houses that are mostly using artificial intelligence for scripts? I've got a theory on a kid show that is so flippin' weird.
I love it when he does. Morgan.
Not that I know of firsthand. The first time I've heard of anyone experimenting with AI on the writing side of things was very infrequent, and that was back in December. And I think that's when the language model AI started to actually be pretty relevant.
So that recently.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because there were other language model AIs over the previous year, but they were incredibly ridiculous. I think, Tom, you played around with one this time last year for some stuff. So yeah, there's those, but I don't know of any production houses using AIs specifically to generate scripts.
The problem I ran into with it, which is probably why they don't really, there's not a lot of people using it yet, was like it culls and pulls from either whatever you feed into it or whatever is available via the internet. So the problem I kept running into is what I would do is I would feed it like the first act of a movie and then just see if it would finish it off. And if it had all the information it needs, 9 times out of 10, it would just finish it off like the original story ended.
Interesting.
But times if I would forget to give it something specific, it would go in a little bit different direction, but it never really deviated too far. And in fact, I noticed sometimes it went out of its way to bring it back around to what the original story was, because it was clearly feeding from whatever was out on Google, because it even brought in characters and stuff that I didn't mention that were in the movie. So it's like, obviously it's pulling information from elsewhere.
That makes sense. Okay. Well, then I'll let that theory go to rest, and I'll think that this particular kid show is just written by an alien. It's so weird.
Just to DM me what you think the Kate show is, and I'll ask around about it.
I released a video on it. Transformers Earthspark. Their understanding of family is so bizarre. And I don't want to talk about my videos on everybody else's stream, but it is so strange in the understanding of family and the way they talk about family. It's kind of like the way that Tommy Wiseau has tuxedo football in the room. It's just like, have you ever been in a family before?
That's
the rumor is I was in a family at one point.
Yes.
All right. Well, if Six was saying the super chat for Jonas is actually the super chat that Jonas provided, then I think I'm gonna head out. Thank you so much.
I'm not 100% sure on that, but I believe
she
so.
says yes.
All right.
Okay.
Cool.
Thank you, Jonas. Take care of yourself, buddy.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Bye, Jonas.
Bye.
Now, Culture, you've had this in the background here for a while. I didn't know if you got to use it or not. But,
Oh no, I was just mentioning that when
look at that score.
But okay, so now they're protecting this film. Okay, the reason I brought this up the way I did is because the top critics think this is trash at 47%. The all audience score is 48% with over 5,000 ratings, which they're going to say is a review bomb, because when you go to their specialty verified audience, which is clearly full of bots, it jumps up to 95%.
Well, what do you mean clearly full of bots?
If you read through the various responses here of the 500 plus verified ratings, you can see a particular pattern of behavior with the way that the reviews are written. If you did a data scrape, you could probably find which has been done often with.
This is why I want the cinema score, Paul.
Yeah.
Because the cinema score would be more accurate.
Yeah, because this can be manipulated rather easily. And again, they're going to say, well, this is being, bombed by the trolls. And perhaps that's true. But this is the thing that they never discuss. You can positively bomb, which is what most, I would say, of the verified audience does. So it's just it's going to be a constant battle, and that's one of the reasons why it's not a misnomer to call this a culture war item. It just truly is. And again, you go to all critics, this thing's at a 67, and verified audience, it's at a 95. You look at the top critics, you look at the whole audience, and they're more in alignment than you think.
I would say that that's a pretty accurate assessment as to the quality of the film.
Okay, well, fair enough. I'm going to watch your review when I get a chance today, Paul. So
yeah, I tried to take it into places where other people aren't taking their reviews.
Yeah, it's fair.
Or guessing, guessing that they haven't, or guessing that they have or haven't. Never mind.
Well, you're doing this standard thing. What would all the other writers in Hollywood do with this idea? Okay, I'm going to do not that.
Yeah,
to stand out. Exactly.
Basically. Yeah. It's very easy to dump on this movie, and I'm trying to just think of why. I mean, just so much effort. This really does look like a committee film. I mean, holy smokes. you can. It really does feel like a lot of people had a say in it.
And again, that's not filmmaking. You're removing the art from you're removing the artist from the art in that situation.
Well, the artist has always had to struggle with the studio. That's not an unusual thing. And it's also the way, the way they do it and the compromises that they've made. And sometimes the studio is right. There's nothing more disappointing than getting a note from someone who you think is a complete idiot. And you look at it and go, oh, okay, he's actually right.
Yep. Sure, but more often than not, I mean, you can tell, like you just illustrated here in just a moment ago, that something has just been overly trod over.
I think so.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean that the studio is correct. There's this movie called The Big Clock, and it was directed by a European fellow. And part of what the studios told him in Hollywood was that we have final cut. And he went, no, I have final cut because I'm a European director. That's how we work in Europe at the time. And they went, no, we have the final cut. So he directed the movie in such a way that it could not be edited any other way but the way he shot it.
Smart.
And so, for instance, it actually starts off with something like a 5-minute opening shot. That's brilliant. It's absolutely fantastic. You can't edit it. Okay, how do you edit this? And then the other thing too is he just did his one take, one shot, two shot, group shot, and didn't give them anything else.
Like he shot bare minimum coverage.
Bare minimum, bare minimum.
Wow.
So if there was a 2-shot, he didn't do any coverage.
That's amazing.
That's how he shot the whole thing like that. It was like the movie came out like a jigsaw puzzle, which you just fitted it together the way he shot it. And you got the movie. And it's a brilliant movie. It's one of my favorite all-time movies, The Big Clock.
Well, thanks for that tip. Then we have Mr. Chato recommends in addition to Chris recommends.
We need a Paul Chato.
Yeah, and I look forward to when we are.
Now it was remade.
Yeah,
it was remade as No Way Out with Kevin.
Oh, wow. The one where they're looking for Yuri, right?
Yep.
Yeah, that was a brilliant movie.
Wow. Yeah, it's one of the few movies.
With Kevin Costner and Sean Young, was it?
Yes.
No, it wasn't Sean Young.
Sean. It was. Yeah, the crazy woman.
Yeah, Sean Young. Yeah, it was Sean Young.
Yeah.
Yeah, anyway, that's a fantastic movie, but we are about to move on with other topics.
And
more
fish stick.
Before then, I just want to raise another topic here, because as some of you are aware, like Tom, he didn't want me to say this, but I'm going to anyway. Tom has a fur baby, a dog that is in need of surgery, and Tom didn't want to, but he was pressured by several in our community to put up a GoFundMe to this effect. I'm sure that the mods can put this up in the description here, to help raise some funds for this, because this was a sudden and unexpected expense, which of course is something one just has to do. So I just want to say thanks for absolutely everyone that has been able to contribute to that. Any contribution is necessary. We've already or the minimum goal has already been reached, but those things can frequently be more expensive than what is let on when you start talking about it. So any kind of contribution would be most welcome, I'm certain. Everyone that has had some kind of pet knows that that's absolutely part of your family.
Thank you. And yeah, I want to thank everybody so far who has helped out. I mean, I'm greatly humbled, and I mean, I'm not surprised by the response, because this community is awesome and amazing, and they've always come, to the aid of others. So that part didn't necessarily surprise me, but how quickly you guys did, and just the amount so far. And Six and Mikey have kept pushing me. Like, I put the bare minimum on there. I could. Andre's actually right. I'm going off of estimates, and of course, that same day I had my car take a shit on me, so that was like a double whammy. But no, everything you guys have done so far has really helped me out, especially with like the stress of everything. So I can't thank y'all enough. So Andre's right, every little bit does help. And thank you guys here on the panel and everybody in the chat, all the mods, everybody who's done everything they can to share it out. And I see Paulie in the chat, and all those guys.
The goal you put there, you did put the absolute bare minimum, and the final bill you're going to get in the end is probably going to be a whole hell.
And the only reason I kind of gave in, and they were right, and Mikey was the one. Of course, he's the money man. You would know. He pointed out to me, he's like, dude, you're already like over halfway to $1,000 in the hole because of this, just because of the tests. So he's like, you got to do this. He's like, you're never going to be able to make it, especially with your car. So yes, Mike and Six, I got to really thank the most for pushing. And I mean, Mr. H and so many other YouTubers have shared it out there. And thank you all for doing that. I believe, the guys last night on Comics Division brought it up. I don't want to leave anybody out. Of course, I know Pro, I think, brought it up as well. So thank you, everybody who shared it or brought it up on their shows. It's been greatly appreciated, and it's going to go far because she's got. I had to get this figured out before next week, and you guys made that happen. So thank you so much for helping me. I appreciate it.
Yes, indeed. So any further support would be most welcome. And with that, we have some more topics to cover here before we start losing panelists. So let's move on with some of these super chats first.
We've got a few of those here. Let's start at the top here. We got Justin B says, "Hope you all doing great. I was wondering if you'd find gentlemen had any tips for a struggling YouTube channel." Oh boy, Justin. Are you a member? Because I was going to say that's probably something that would be a better conversation if you were a member and you could talk to us a little bit more one-on-one. We can get a better idea of what you're doing, and maybe we can give you some, ideas or tips that way. But I mean, as far as generalized tips, just find something that you like, keep doing that thing, just keep refining it. Hopefully sooner or later, whatever it is you're doing, somebody will notice.
Yeah, it takes one thing. I mean,
Yeah.
And other than that, it's always a grind. I mean, produce the best material you can regularly. Have some thoughtful views on things that maybe somebody else isn't approaching. I mean, I love Chato's approach. I think Paul would be the person to ask. I mean, he's Mr. Silver Plaque in the background right now.
Yeah, that's a good point, Culture. I'm sure that's a good way of doing it, is just kind of looking at
whatever
only
it is you're doing. Years.
Right? Yeah. Well, and that's just it. I mean, if anything, we got to tell you, it's not an overnight thing, right? I mean, Midnight's Edge has been around for almost 7 years now, 6 years now, Andre?
Yeah, it's Midnight's Edge has been around since 2015. But I will say the moment that came, where I knew that, this is going to work, that was about a month in.
Okay. Well, and back then it was a little different to get started on YouTube.
Exactly. That was a different world.
See, that's the thing. I mean, and you can promote yourself all you want. That does help, but it doesn't matter if the audience isn't interested in what you're talking about. So you got to be interested in what you're talking about, so your audience is interested in what you're talking about.
And the most important thing is that the only thing I can say is like most. Well, of course, I could do a detailed analysis. I'm not going to do that here. But just as a general thing, if you want to be successful on YouTube, what you got to do is that you have to find a niche that you are the best in. Because otherwise, you're competing with everyone else. If you just do some random pop culture commentary, how many others are doing the same thing? Yeah. Why should anyone watch you in particular? You have to have something unique to say. You have to be able to bring something to the conversation that no one else can. And you have to be consistent, you have to be good, and you have to be entertaining. And if you can do all of those, then you have the recipe for success right there. If you are good, if you are entertaining, but the niche is so small that there's not enough people that care, or that don't discover it, it's not going to help. So basically, it's like several things have to go right all at once. So you have to work at making all those things go right all at once. Mr. Chato, I'm sure, can speak to that a little bit.
To me, it's all about what the premise is and the angle of your premise. I've you learn that through sketch writing, where you can write a sketch where you think is really well written, but then the audience doesn't care about the premise, it dies. Then you can have another sketch where it's really badly, not well written, but people love the premise, and then it just takes off. And so the solution to that is to just keep writing more stuff. Yeah, so people will tell you, your audience will tell you whether they like what you're doing or not. I've been doing this for 6 years, and for me, I kept changing every year some aspect of what it was I was doing to try to. Of course, you don't want to keep doing the same thing that isn't working. That's the Einstein method, right?
Insanity.
The definition of an insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. So don't be stupid. If it's not working within a reasonable amount of time, then try something else. There's a lot of people who are doing entertainment on YouTube, and then when I just came up with I was watching everybody else's reviews about stuff, and they were very personal, and I went, well, wait a second, I actually have the perspective of someone who is an executive within in the back end. What's my cynical perspective? And it just all started with the idea that I don't really care about your opinion. I only have one job to do when I'm working for an entertainment company, and that's to keep my goddamn job. So what is it that requires me to keep my job? It's not quality. No,
so that's my shtick, actually. For as a writer, what's required of me to keep my job is quality.
But it was a very different take. Mm-hmm. I tried it, and it was an instant success. People liked the idea that, what's the studio's perspective, which is the one I'm taking with the Little Mermaid. Like, what is it that they need to do to make it successful? And it's got nothing to do with your feelings. So that took off, and so I'm sticking with that now. And so it took me 5 years to get to 20,000 subscribers, and then it took me 1 year to get another 80 to get to 100,000. It was just
that's exactly what I mean. Like, you were doing something that was reasonably successful, but then suddenly you hit it, and then you came here, and then it.
And then you guys made me brilliant. Thank you very much.
Yeah. You can keep that in mind, because you'll be pissed at me in a few weeks here. But,
why are you kicking me off?
No. I'm not at all.
I don't need you guys.
Yeah. We need you. Yeah. And Culture, any other advice before we move on here?
No, but I would just say take Jonas J. Campbell's advice. I mean, seriously, be consistent, work on search engine optimization, of course, which I'm still struggling with. And the most important thing is just the engaging content. Like I said before, I think having a unique voice is exactly what Paul was describing. A unique take on a premise that somebody else is going to
take on a premise.
Yeah. And not just that, you got to enjoy what you're doing. And that's why I say find something you love and love to talk about, because that's part of the grind, man.
And you'll be talking about it a hell of a lot.
Yeah,
this hobby, if you're successful, this hobby is going to become work really fast, and you'll work like you've never worked on anything before.
Because trust me, everybody goes through. I spent 20,000 hours editing this video, and it's my my best work I've ever done, and nobody's going to watch it.
Right.
But then you'll make a stupid video where your dog farts on the cat, and 1 million people watch it.
And I've experimented with that.
So I've tried to get Sadie to fart on Kitty. She won't do it.
I have experimented
She's too dainty.
with videos where I've pulled out all the silences, the breaths, and edited it within an inch of its life and added all.
We do that.
And I have seen more engagement, like the amount of time people are sticking with the videos. That does really work. But the amount of effort is required often is not worth the effort, the final effort. So it's really about the idea. I didn't think my Dove video was going to take off. But it did.
Yeah.
Like, okay,
You never really know. You never really know which one is going to take off.
And 6 brings up an. Oh, go ahead. Sorry, Andre.
Yeah, there's like videos that I thought was like, yeah, this is 100,000 guaranteed, dead at 10,000.
Yeah.
And then others like, I don't really have any hopes for this, but I'm really passionate about it, so we'll do it. Boom, a
ESG
million.
video, for instance, we didn't think.
For instance, yeah, from 500,000 views and counting.
Yeah, and that's a fantastic video.
And 6 also points out another thing too. To have a successful channel like some of us do, it takes a lot of work to the point where we have to have people like 6 who volunteer their time, and the other mods in the chat like CC and Mr. Tickle Trunk, and I don't know if D-Bud's there. I've seen a few of the guys, but all the mods we got, it takes an army to basically run one of these channels. It's a lot of work, and you got to love what you're doing, or it will drive you insane.
It takes building a community.
Yes.
It takes you restructuring or changing the borders between what is work and what is free time and what you do for fun, because you'll be doing a lot of it if this works. But yeah, let's move on here. Tipping Bond says for $1.99, a Shark Tale is now a tour de force in retrospect. Never saw it, but I wouldn't be surprised. ActionCom says for $5, what's more interesting is that Mr. Limpet was a metaphor for how war changes people. Yeah, there you go. And Tillis Mallory says for $5, I don't think Little Mermaid is going to make as much as Puss in Boots' Last Wish.
I don't think so.
No. And actually, on that note, let us get into the next topic here before we start losing panelists. And that has to do with how much movies are going to make. Because we will see how much The Little Mermaid is going to make. The international projections are not very promising. The money that this movie is going to make is the money it can make in the States. Internationally, the early projections have it more or less already. The international audience just aren't feeling it. But there's more movies that we have early projections for, which was reported in the Hollywood Reporter earlier today. Isn't that right, Culture?
Yeah, these numbers are kind of scary for for these films. We have obviously the Little Mermaid thing we were talking about, but we have this Flash film that's coming up with Ezra Miller playing multiple Flashes, and we also have Disney's Pixar Elemental through their obviously Disney. The Flash is going to open to a soft $70 million domestic.
Yeah, this is something that Thanos was right also points out for $1.99. Have you all seen the latest Flash tracking, 70 million? Yeah, we did see that. Thanks for pointing it out. And Tom, can you bring up the article that's in the private chat here?
Yeah, and it's pretty bad. I mean, Elemental is, we're talking about Pixar. We're talking about the family animated brand for Disney. We're talking about the one that eclipsed their own animation studios in Pixar. And that film Elemental is paced for $40 million. 40 million domestic in the United States.
How the mighty have fallen.
Yeah.
And
that I just want to say right away before we continue, that is continuing the tradition of Lightyear, which lost more than 100 million. It's one of the biggest flops of all time. This heads straight down that territory. Anyway, carry on with the story.
Well, no, and interestingly enough, and as this story unfolds, you'll find that both of these films are releasing as each other's counter programming, because they both release on June 16th, along with some other things that aren't in this article, I don't believe, like The Blackening and a couple of other films as well. There's not a lot of upside for these films releasing against each other, but even if you add them together at the box office, that's only 110. Is my math right? $110 million. That's
what's 70 plus 40? Is that what you said?
40. Yeah.
It's 110 last I checked.
Yeah, it's pretty soft. On opening weekends for two films, that means the box office overall for that projected weekend, June 16th, is going to be substantially muted. And that's going the wrong direction for theaters and for obviously these studios. Normally the summer box office, when it kicks out a new set of films, you have weekend very consistent high end earnings, and this is not going to do that. I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of positive spin on The Flash, for the reasons that Tom has described before. That it's basically the Batman the Batman movie with The Flash and Man of Steel with a female. And those seem to be consistent descriptions that are accurate. Elemental just has looked bad from day one, and Pixar has pushed away so many people on Disney animation in general because of their, anti-family messaging in the last few of them and their promotion of things that people don't want to have to explain to their children. So we'll have to see how this goes. I'm still of a mind to say that the leadership at Pixar is lacking. I don't think Pete Docter ever should have been put in a position of power. And I don't know. I mean, I'm sure Script has some thoughts here, but I'd
say a soft opening weekend on a holiday weekend is really, really bad. Yeah. It's a holiday weekend coming up. People are going to want to do stuff during the day, barbecue, celebrations, whatnot, and in the evening go to a movie to have some fun and before they end out their night. Yeah. And yet they're projecting $70 million for a superhero tentpole film that's been in the works for 7.5 years. Actually, it's been in the works almost as long as Midnight Jets has been a YouTube channel. That seems like a very low expectation and something to be very concerned about if you're at the studio, Ed, in my opinion.
Yeah, I have to say I'm surprised that I'm not surprised about Elemental, not in the slightest, because that's a Disney brand, and it took a long time, but the Disney brand is now tarnished, and if they start now in this second, it's going to take them 5 years to fix it. Yeah. But the Flash, that it opens to a mere 70 million, I'm a little bit surprised by that. That tells me that two things have spread far and wide. One, James Gunn is rebooting the DC universe anyway, so none of what happens here really matters one way or the other. And two, Ezra Miller. Because outside of those two, ain't no reason why this movie shouldn't at least open to the same numbers as Marvel's Quantumania and Guardians of the Galaxy, unless, of course, you have the ripple effects of several bad movies and all the DC chaos. Plenty of things come together there, but still, I'm surprised at such an incredibly soft opening as 70 million. That's got to be bad for the studio, because this movie, this was expensive. Even if they didn't invest in reshooting it with someone other than Ezra Miller, this is expensive.
Well, yeah, I mean, and again, the competition's not very stiff for this weekend. Strangely enough, like I mentioned, The Blackening is coming out. That's the terror horror film that's all black people. Then they make jokes about being black throughout it. And then Asteroid City has limited release that weekend as well.
Well, that's Wes Anderson. He always has limited releases.
Yeah, so I'm looking at that. And of course, that features Adrian Brody, Tom Hanks, and Bill Murray.
That's brilliant timing, though, because that's counter-programming on a weekend where none of the big movies are really anything that evidently has the kind of mass appeal that you'd expect. Counter-programming on such a weekend, I mean, that movie's going to take off.
Yeah,
relative to expectations, of course.
Well, and again, I mean, it's like, do you want to go see a comedy? All right, well, we'll go see, Asteroid City. Do you want to see a horror film with comedy? Okay, we'll go see The Blackening. Do you want to see a morally questionable Disney animated Pixar film? Okay, go see that. Or
the TikTokers have been memeing the Wes Anderson bit too, so that might.
Well, it's been getting a lot
into its weekend.
It's been getting a lot of social coverage, indeed.
That's what I'm saying. Like, that might be why, because I'm like looking at this, I'm like, wow, even I, knowing what I've known about The Flash for so long, I'm still kind of flabbergasted at a 70 million opening. I thought it'd be bigger than that.
Yeah.
I wonder if it has something to do with that, perhaps, is that people are expecting this Wes Anderson movie to do a little bit better than they thought. I'm not so sure about Elemental doing 40 million though. That's the one. I bet you the Flash will take 20 million out of that. If I had to guess, it's going to be Flash is going to be closer to 100 million, and Elemental will be lucky to bring in about 20. Nobody's going to give a crap about this movie. There's zero buzz for it. When I saw the trailer, what was that? Sorry, Script.
Oh, sorry. I thought you took a break there, but yes, I was just saying that seemed like a very plausible trend for the holiday weekend. Is like breaking 100 million ish.
Yeah, I mean, because I think the Flash will do a little bit better than that. I think they're under. You know, I think they're trying to. They're hedging their bets a little bit, and it's going to probably do better because we know for a fact with Michael Keaton being in that thing, it's going to make 100 million probably. Right off the.
I don't know that for a fact.
I don't know. Because everybody who's seeing this movie, even people like Chris Gore, are still giving it good reviews, even though they can't argue the fact that it's just Man of Steel with tits and Batman.
Yeah, but even so, how many of the total movie-going audience have that much nostalgia for Michael Keaton at this point? How many under the age of 40 grew up with Michael Keaton as their Batman?
That's the difference here, Andre. You brought up the interesting point. I'm thinking here is, because this is a situation where a lot of people who don't give a shit about the previous DC movies, they aren't interested because of Batman.
Which shows, again, sorry, which shows how little the studio ever had in the faith of the Flash, because he's not headlining his own movie. He needs other heroes within his universe to help support his debut film. That is a really bad sign for your character.
And
it's a good thing that this is going to be a closeout, essentially. Sorry about that, Tom. Go ahead.
No, that's fine. But that's my point exactly, is there are people who are going to go see this who've never seen Justice League, who've never seen Man of Steel, and don't give a shit. They're going to see it because they see it as a sequel to Michael Keaton's Batman.
But my point is, like, how many who are under the age of 40 care about Michael Keaton's Batman?
Remember, go back almost 6 months when the Super Bowl ad dropped, Andre.
It was huge.
Batmania all over again for about 5 minutes. So I have a feeling that they're underestimating this just a bit, and they're overestimating Elemental. Because the other point that I was going to make there was, whatever the last movie it was I saw in the theater, they had that trailer for Elemental, no response whatsoever. It was before Mario, because I remember it was during the Mario trailer, came out right after it, and everybody perked up during that. But during the Elemental one, there was no response from the audience.
That's amazing. And again, I mean, it's whenever I go into a theater, I always pay attention to who's doing what during the trailers. And, you know, if there's actual laughs and things like that, I make a note of it mentally, because it's important to know what the audience response is to, you know, just that limited clip of whatever it is they're trying to sell. And those previews, they really do get an audience back to a theater to watch another film. It's the one time you might actually have somebody's undivided attention if you're advertising a film, is during those previews. So it's important to know what the audience is thinking. So,
yeah. Mr. Chato, we haven't heard from you. Are you surprised by these numbers? Would you have expected them to be higher for either of these movies?
You know what? There are the movies that are exciting people, and there's the movies that are not exciting people. I'm a little bit, well, I mean, it's a crapshoot, right? Obviously, Mario Brothers excited people.
Mm-hmm.
And we can always go back to Top Gun Maverick. So the audience is out there. Maybe they're just being way more selective. Movie watching used to be just Friday night date night. We're going to go out to the multiplex and go see something. And now movies have gotten way too expensive. So you're also being much more careful with the money that you're spending. And the fact that we've gone through a real long low point of crappy movies. So combined with higher prices and crappy movies, I'm not surprised. And maybe the Ezra effect actually has gotten out there, as you guys have mentioned. Maybe they find him an unsavory human being and don't want to go see his movie.
I mean, I'm not going to say I wouldn't laugh if this movie doesn't flop, but the other side of it is there's going to be a bunch of Snyder freaks who are going to think they did it somehow. Because no matter what happens, if it's a hit, they're going to say, there's the proof! There's the proof! We should stick with the Snyderverse! And if it fails, it's like, see, boom, we made sure it failed. Fuck you, James Gunn.
We're still not talking about an awful lot of people.
No, I know that's the problem here. But we are losing culture. Speaking of people, and we do have. I know 32 flavors of Nick Weiser's in the house. How you doing, Nick? Says culture coming in with hot with his takes. Yeah, he's got some pretty hot takes sometimes.
Thank you.
And I don't know if we had any more for culture offhand. Let me see here. I don't know if Six had them ready or not.
Who wants to talk culture?
That's it for culture. So
nobody. I'm not interested.
Well, a lot of times there's ones that are like for everybody, or ones he could help us answer as well. But
air conditioning question.
In this case, he has to be weaving
us. True culture. We think you're plenty interesting as well.
Oh, okay. Well, thank you.
Yeah.
No, I
believe me. We love you.
Oh boy, yeah, I love you too. I have to step out, but I will be back on my own channel in a little while. Hopefully, some of y'all will follow over for the Friday pre-flight. And then
speaking of working hard on his channel, Mr. Culture.
Oh, thank you, Paul.
Good, very good example for someone who is working hard on making this whole thing work.
Well, Culture is one of the hardest working, most consummate professional YouTubers I know.
Wow.
And everyone who hasn't done so already need to head on over to Culture Casino, subscribe to him, and especially watch his daily news show, which is only 6 minutes long. And that's honestly, that's one of like my main means of research.
Investment.
Yeah, I appreciate that. That's very kind of all of you. Anyway, I will see you all soon, hopefully, and love you all. Have a great day, everybody, and don't go anywhere. There's got more stuff to talk about that I wish I was going to get to. I got to see you. Bye.
Take care, Culture.
Bye, Culture.
And I want to mention one thing about Elemental, and I don't know whether it was done on purpose or whether this was subliminal, but if you take a look at their logo, it looks like very rainbow.
Yeah, well, they got a mix in there. Of course, the Elemental also has our environmental messaging in it too, I'm sure.
Oh yeah, you have all the ESGs in there.
ESGs in there, yeah.
Yeah. You're gonna have some rainbows. You're gonna have some environment. You're gonna have all of that. Of course, you can't have Pixar obviously without rainbows.
Let's be real. The whole movie is predicated on this relationship that is clearly an allegory for a mixed relationship.
But it's Romeo and Juliet.
Is it though, Paul? Is it really?
Sure, they're all Romeo and Juliet.
Essentially, yeah. Though anything that's considered forbidden love, it stems from Romeo and Juliet, which stems earlier from Pyramus and Thisbe.
Well, my point is that they're trying to imply that, it's still forbidden. It's like, no, it's not. It's not as forbidden as you
When
act.
fire and water get together, they create steam and both die. So that's the forbidden.
People in the chat get what I'm saying.
Ouch.
See, even Tiki of Doom.
So I'm going to rest up. I got to go. I got stuff to do.
You got to leave us. Well, I'm sure you got some super chats.
Well, to check the super chats. I'm resting up to get beaten up on FNT.
They're going to love your take on the movie, I'm sure.
Oh, I'm sure.
You think I'm rough. Movie. They hate the movie. I was reading the chats, and they just absolutely hate it. I go, okay, well, let's put it in.
They gender swapped me over there. That's how much they loved me over there. You're going to be in trouble because if you think I gave you a hard time.
Mike the Mexican Iron Man says for $4.99, Chato sounds like Papa Poseidon, likes to travel to the open seas and hook up like Mexican Iron Man at Vegas pool parties. Where are all the baby mamas? No, that's a good question.
Where the baby mama at? Mike crawls up in there. Where the white women at?
Yeah. And B is for Boomer. Well, he echoes exactly what I was saying. I love hearing Paul's point of view. It gives me more to think about.
Well, that's very kind of you.
Exactly right. Yeah, because you need people that comes and sees things from different perspectives, because that's how one broadens one's horizons.
Yeah, I'd like to think that.
Yeah, and Mo Sislak, who I do love that name, says for $20. Thank you so much for the support. That's much appreciated, and goes a long way because these are trying times. Paul is being fair. Not everything has to be a woke disaster. It might not be a success, but it's nice to know Disney didn't remove the traditional romantic element of the movie. Still won't watch it though. Yeah.
Well, yeah.
She is still pining for him badly.
Then why does she move away from in the kiss the girl scene where he's going in for the kiss?
because
that
that's
still bothers me.
Because that's actually in the original cartoon too. They can't have the kiss or it breaks the spell that Ursula has placed on her.
I don't remember her resisting in that.
Yeah,
okay.
you can't. She has to resist.
Moe's Tavern for $20. Says, read my prior super chat. I have a deposition in 4 minutes. I need to mute my TV and pretend to be professional. Also, hail Andre. Oh, we meant to. He meant for us to see this earlier. I apologize. Hopefully, you're listening now, though, Mo.
Yeah, you'll have to catch it on the replay. But hail Mo, hail one, and hail all, and thanks for the additional support. Because again,
my bad, I didn't
really
see this earlier. I would have grabbed it then. And then we got call sign Alucard. Go ahead.
Yeah, it says for $9.99. Thank you so much. For everyone, I get showing kids the utopia of multicultural people working together, and only difference is names of countries. What is Hollywood doing a disservice when the USA is the exception to the rule? TLM sisters.
And this was directed at Paul, I guess is what Six said.
Well, you're talking about the Little Mermaid sisters who are all from the 7 seas, and Triton must have impregnated 7 different women to get the 7 different looking girls. So
Mikey is the Little Mermaid's dad?
Clearly. And before I go, I just wanted to bring up one tweet that that Script tweeted regarding Willow, which I thought was pretty funny. I don't know if you guys saw it.
Oh, thank you.
The Forbes magazine, or the writer of Willow.
Yes, that was glorious. Tom, can you bring that up? Let's talk about that before you go.
Talk about that. I thought that's a worthy topic to discuss.
It is a worthy topic. So let's bring that one up right away. If you have like 2 minutes for that, I just want to highlight that call sign Alucard pointed out that his past super chat was for Paul. But, thanks for that as well.
Thank you.
That was an amazing super chat. And Tom, while you find it, tweet. The background for this tweet is that one of the writers of Willow, Willow, that absolute dog shit piece of crap series that no one watched, about 2 lesbians in the foreground with Willow standing in the background, even if he was in every single episode that passed for a Willow series. The one that was taken off of Disney Plus after 6 months because no one were watching it. Well, Forbes, they did a takedown of this series, and this would be Eric Kane in Forbes, the same writer at Forbes who had some very, very based takes on the ranks of power. Like he really let go on that series, and he did the same thing in Willow. He basically said in Forbes, now I don't have the article in front of me, but he did write an article to the point of good riddance to Forbes, or good riddance to getting rid of Willow, because that was a horrible, horrible, no good piece of crap series. To which one of the writers of Willow, John Bickerstaff is his name, he retweeted this articles, and he simply said, "Hey Forbes, get fucked." And Tom is responding right now.
All right. Any suggestions, Mr. Script Doctor?
Let me zoom in here. First,
it says, you get fucked. You fucked up Willow with your woke bullshit.
Well, bullshit's one word, and comma.
No, yeah, I got Grammarly for that. Don't worry about that. I got that fixed. See, there we go. Okay.
I wouldn't send it.
It's too late now. It's already out there for the world to see.
It's good enough on the stream. No, his was pretty bad. John Bickerstaff, very poor. I mean, also derivative.
Let's go back and see what Script had to say to this.
Wait, I got a new one here. No, you wrote a bad show, and you should feel bad. How about that?
or you
No.
just leave it.
Oh,
Just leave it,
fine.
I'm kind of
All right,
with
we're
you,
going back
Scott,
to
on
Script
this one.
Doctor.
Yeah. Script Doctor, he had the proper take on it. Script, rather than I try to imitate you, how about you just read for us what, for those who are only listening, what exactly was it that you retweeted to John Bickerstaff?
I simply pointed out, here we have another exhibit as to why the Willow series on Disney Plus is being scrapped. One of their staff writers with the most derivative response to criticism. I hope they didn't suffer a stroke trying to come up with such an imaginative insult.
Indeed. And again, all that John Bickerstaff said, who of course has a rainbow in his bio, or at least it's not Ukrainian flag or something, said, "Hey Forbes, get fucked." And yeah, like this is such a talented writer, and we know this because he did Willow, where good writers go to die, I guess.
Well, I mean, it's the series overall. That series was really a very superficial lifting of what Star Wars, the first Star Wars movie, was trying to be, and then they're trying to weave in some other aspects of that original trilogy, and it just was not appropriate at all. It didn't work. It didn't feel authentic to what Willow was, and yeah, I mean, it was
which
very
is sad
lazy.
because it was kind of pre-written for him. If you watch the movie, like if you watch the first movie, you kind of get an idea of where this story is supposed to go, right? And it's like they worked against themselves to try and tell the same story at the end of the day. I mean, I just don't understand it. You literally have them adopting Elora Danan at the end of the movie. They get married, all this business. Willow is there. He's now basically like wizard level. Like, it's pretty obvious that Willow is supposed to train Elora Danan, and she will be the great sorceress going forward to replace what's her name, who died. Or no, she didn't die. She's still alive at the end, isn't she? Or did she die? I can't remember. The good witch lady. I can't remember. It's been like 20 years since I've seen it.
She survived, right?
Yeah, she survived, but she's not going to be there forever. So regardless, there's those two are there supposed to be setting her up to be the great, sorceress going forward to protect everybody. And that's all you do is you come up with a new big bad, and Elora's got to face him. That's not too hard to do, and she uses Willow to help her. End of story. How hard is that? No, you got to make it this freaking stupid, like Val Kilmer's a deadbeat dad, and you got the lesbian subplot, and Elora Danan's now a servant for some reason.
Yeah, if anything, the way it's given the fact that you don't have Val Kilmer at your disposal for this, what you'd probably do in a prologue is make some sort of the crone did something to the kingdom, decimated it. Val Kilmer sacrificed himself to save Elora and his biological children. And Willow has been, if not captured, but definitely been displaced. And it's like the kids now have to find Willow, and Willow's trying to find them. And maybe they, through a spell, they can communicate for short bursts because the crone can maybe track them or what have you. And you have a battle of wits of them trying to regroup and save their kingdom.
Yeah. Or better yet,
Mr.
you don't
Chato.
have to. I was just gonna say, real quick, just gonna say, you don't even have to have Willow do this like be gone thing, because that reminds me too much of TLJ. Just have him be home with his kids and family, and he just decided to be a great magician again. But they're like, no, you're a wizard, dude. Get out here. We need your help. That's fine with me too. You don't have to make him a deadbeat. I mean, he was a family guy.
Oh, he was very much a family guy still in the series. Like, him and his daughter loved each other. We just don't know what happened to his wife and son.
Well, that's dumb. Sorry, Paul. Go ahead.
Okay. I didn't say anything. Andre was going to ask me something.
Yeah, I was going to ask you because you saw this story. I'm curious about your take on it. As a former network executive, if you go and you look at, you're setting up a TV series and you look at what writers have done before, and you check the Twitter handle of a prospective writer that you may be hiring, and you find this, what do you say?
Oh, I'd probably avoid them without incurring any kind of legal penalty for saying I'm going to avoid them.
Yeah.
I have. I mean, you could probably smell just from his bio how much trouble he's going to be anyway.
Yeah.
For some
What is it
reason,
with-
your emails keep going to spam folder. I'm sorry. I just never
That's
got
right.
back.
I don't know what's going on. Again, these people are shooting themselves in the foot, especially with this this thing that they're doing now with the writers union. They're basically getting rid of projects and people based on force majeure.
Yep.
You know, oh, sorry, I can't pay you because the job, like everyone's on strike. Bye, gone. I don't have to pay you anything more. See you. So to bring up something like this is a career killer.
Yeah, exactly. I'm surprised he didn't try to respond, who the heck are you? Because my default response would be a writer that will be working when the strike is over.
Yeah, and the thing is, I tend to have fun with the people who insult me for the most
Yeah.
part. Like, you might as well, you know, you have, yeah, well, you know, if someone says, Paul, you suck, you're bad, I'm going, well, you know what? Have you been talking with my wife? You know, if you're a writer, then you kind of have to, you know, hone your skills in this social media realm. Have some fun with it. Go for it.
Yeah.
That's
I mean,
just
you got to get some
immature.
practice in between gigs.
Yes, that's right. Learn to write some jokes.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that's my thought, and I gotta go.
Well, thank you for joining us. It's been a
Oh.
pleasure to have you as always. Good luck on FNT,
I will.
which is where you'll show up next.
Oh, they hate the movie. They absolutely hate it. We'll see how my take works. I will talk to you later, everyone. What's it today? Friday. Have a nice long weekend for
It
those of
is.
you Americans. The only one.
For Tom, enjoy your long weekend.
Tom, enjoy your long weekend.
Yeah, actually, there's long
Yeah, I'm
weekend
the only
in Norway
American
too.
left here, ain't I? Jesus, this is
You're
crazy.
probably right, Bobo Yogi.
I'm the minority
I'm
now.
just going to shut up and let them talk.
I'm not going to get in on this one. But yeah, odds on Chato saying one sentence uninterrupted on
It's going to
FNT.
be very difficult. I think they're going to be able to let me get my name out. That's it.
It'll be fun. Well, we'll see
Yeah.
how if you look forward to coming back here again on Monday, or if that suddenly is going to be less exciting after.
I like
the
the less
experience.
exciting stuff here. Trust me. But we'll see whether I recover from it and I'm still awake. Talk
Find
to you
out if-
later.
Well, we
If
look
you
forward
show
to,
up on
to,
Sunday,
to
that is,
welcome
yeah.
you back home again on Monday.
Yep. Bye, everyone.
Take care.
Bye,
Take
Paul.
care.
All right. And with that, let's get back into some more of these super chats here. Go back to the top. We've got Alan Octavian Moldovan who says, hello, panel. Wanted to say big thank you for all your work in entertainment. Well, thank you. Because God knows Hollywoke can't make anything. Hope I get to see all the conversation. I'm heading out to celebrate my birthday. Well, happy birthday to you. A lot of birthdays today.
Yeah, many birthdays. This evidently is a popular day to have been born.
I guess
A
so.
number of years ago. So yeah, happy birthday, Alan. Hope you have been enjoying the recent Conan videos.
Bat Tom says to send the song he sang earlier to you as well. Walt, man. Oh, man. Mikey. This is your fault. Waltman4 sends in $1.99, says $1 for the rainbow duct tape, Tom. Okay. Thank you. You're going to make me have to explain this to Andre, aren't you? Jim Watari says testing. And we got it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
10-4. Kitty Bear says the stalker is here again. Darn that Tom for showing up on all the channels I like. I know, I'm so sorry. Watch Fubar. Yeah, he told me he checked out Fubar. He said it was a little slow starting, but he's glad he watched it, he said.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I hope it's good. Hope
Doesn't sound as good as Sly's, though. Unfortunately.
Hope that people will enjoy it because you're not getting Conan, so or Terminator. And I'm just going to jump the queue a little bit to highlight this one super chat here. EVA Unit 4A sent us $50. Thank you so much.
Wow.
And he said, a trusted friend saw The Little Mermaid twice yesterday. What the hell is wrong with him? And aside from the 7 Daughters casting and Rule 63 scuttle, the movie was a perfect update. See, I told you there was something wrong with him. It is not woke, and they 100% changed my mind about it. I cried when they told me, now I need to see it. Love, Midnight's Edge. Oh, well, you know what? I hope you'll enjoy it. I hope that you will have fun with it, because even if not everyone will, if you have fun with the movie, then that's all that should matter to you, no matter what else there is to say about the movie.
Yeah, I hope you do.
Yeah.
Jesus Davila sends us a thumbs up. Thank you so much for that, Jesus. Hit that thumbs up if you haven't already. We appreciate that here at the channel. Then Waltman says, question. Walt, what new movie are you excited for? Answer, Metal Gear Solid Snake Eater Remake. Tom, it's not a movie. Me, every MGS game is a movie. Well, that's kind of my point right there with stuff like that is I'd rather just play a Metal Gear game than watch a Metal Gear movie, to be honest with you. I mean, that's the appeal of it, because Metal Gear is already kind of emulating so many movies we love. So I don't know. It's kind of like a snake eating its own tail at that point. But yeah, I can't disagree with your point here. Mr. Tickle Trunk says the Barbie movie looks very self-aware. Yes, even I might watch it. The adult humor and their innocent, twisted humor in the real world actually looks fun. Yeah, and I'm not even sure where some of the did you guys see this Cosmic Book News article where the guy was trying to claim it's woke? They're still out there, they're still out there fucking trying to claim this shit. It's like, dude,
I haven't seen any evidence of that at all.
I know. I'm like, I'm not sure where you get this, and they are stretching for it. We covered it last night on Mean, so if you want more extensive,
is he trying to like circulate that around the whole joke that Ken is used to seeing other Kens as doctors and other Barbies as doctors, and doesn't believe other people can be?
That's doctors. One of his main points. Yes, and the butt slapping scene. I'm like, dude, if you actually like watch it, when she actually gets startled by it more than anything.
Yeah, and punches the guy.
Yeah, it's like out of a reflex. Like it's not even on like. Because after the hit, she's like, oh my God, I'm sorry, or whatever she says in the thing. But like, yeah, it's just, I think you're overstretching it a bit. I'm seeing this as more of a Lego movie kind of situation where, again, I have a feeling it's going to all boil down to we're going to find out it's a bunch of kids playing with dolls at the end of the movie. And that's where the humor comes from. It's just like this, there's this line where kids just, go up to and they don't quite understand certain things with adults, but they do. It's like, and I think they're going to play with that a little bit.
Which would be hilarious. I hope so.
Right. Like, it's all in that scene, right? When he's like, can I spend the night? Okay, what we're going to do? I don't know. That whole thing. It's like, I watch, like, at the end of the movie, they get married or something. It's like, it's now we're married. What do we do? I don't know. Like, it's just something like that. It's just kind of I have a feeling that's what it's going to be, basically. And it's so far, every trailer that comes out is selling me more on it, and I don't give a shit about Barbie. And I'm kind of more or less like, I'm jealous. And I said this in the Toxic Femme chat last night. I'm like, now I want my TMNT and He-Man movie like this. Where's that? Because this is clearly paying loving homage to everything that made Barbie popular for these guys.
I want that I'm something of an expert in Barbie. For the simple reason that I sat down and I did my research for a Barbie video I wrote for Midnight's Edge when Amy Schumer was the one who was set to lead it. I think we're going to do like a new version of that movie since we did the research, went through the Sony leaks and everything, and now it's finally happening. So yeah, I think it's time. But anyway,
and I'm not even 100% sure that this is a new script either, Andre, because it has some of the same elements.
Same basic story. But it's obviously rewritten. But it is the same fundamental story about Barbie leaving Barbie world to come into the real world. That is the fundamental story that they've always been working on. And then it's gone through God knows how many drafts. That script, have you heard anything about the development of this? Do you know how many writers have worked on it? This script gave Amy Pascal a nervous breakdown.
Yeah, that's when it got to her desk, and before that, it had been worked on for almost a decade prior.
Exactly.
They've been wanting to do a Barbie movie since before. Let's see. Now,
wasn't it late 90s?
It was before my time getting into the industry. But the rumors I remember hearing with regards to the nightmare that was Barbie is that it has been being pitched and shopped around and developed since Mortal Kombat movie in 95, 96 did so well with regards to an adaptation. They were just Mattel and Co were basically just trying to say, hey, we want to be able to market our toys to a whole new generation again. We need some sort of visual output. They were experimenting with general Barbie movies, like straight to home video stuff in the early aughts, because the initial script that they were trying to play around with
stuff,
was in just nightmare. That was eventually thrown out. I think it was 2003 or 2004. A new concept came in, which was kind of like the reality breaking stuff we're seeing now, where Barbie is leaving the toy world for the real world. And that was also inspired a little bit by Toy Story. So yeah, there was a lot of experimentation going on at that point. And yeah, when it landed on Sony's desk for a bit. And yeah, I remember a lot of other writers wanting to take a crack at it. But the stipulation was always that it's Barbie entering the real world. Like that's the hook, because they didn't have an idea for how they do a story that could be 100% contained within Barbie's world, because Barbie doesn't have conflicts or antagonists or anything of that nature in her universe. So you have to take her have to do a fish out of water story for
and
her.
She's never really had like a lore or a canon to go by either. She's just Barbie is. Right. And I think that's kind of what this story is playing with the idea of. And it's the only big difference I can tell between when we did those videos back then, Andre, with the Amy Schumer version compared to now, is in that version, the Amy Schumer Barbie didn't fit in the Barbie world. That was kind of the gimmick.
She was
this version. Margot is obviously the quintessential Barbie, right? Like she's
Barbie classic. And for some reason she is losing her Barbieism.
Yes. And I like that. It's kind of, and especially the bit with the flat feet, like we brought up.
Well, not only that, the other bit where she's being told by the older Barbie, there's like, you either go to the real world or you go back to the high heels. She's like, I want the high heels. She's like, no, you got to go to the real world. Like she's telling her you're essentially being exiled temporarily.
Which in that version, the other version, I think they kicked her out, if I remember right. But yeah.
Yeah, and this one here, they're giving her the illusion of a choice, but saying like, if you want to get back in, you have to go this route. You have to leave and come back. You have to go on your own hero's journey, which I think is good. It's an interesting aspect for the trailer. I mean, the only other conflict you could give to Barbie, if you want to keep her within her universe, is that Barbie can't hold on to a job. And so she's just new a career every single time, incredibly qualified in all those things, but for some reason she interviews well, but she can't hold on to a job. So...
Well, I think they're playing that joke with Ken, right? With the doctor scene.
Yeah.
She's like, you're not a doctor. Yes, I am. Anyway.
Well, a race car driver, an astronaut.
Yeah. I know, like, that's the humor in it. I love that part of it. But anyway, Josh, I know you're probably being facetious here, but no, I didn't mean I want pink in TMNT. What I meant is I want something that pays that much attention and loving homage to it. And that's the sad part about, Seth Rogen's TMNT is it's like a third of the way there. If Seth Rogen wasn't involved, it might actually have potential. The new one does. But other than that, I have no faith in it. But I got to get going here soon, so I hate to do this. Whoops, I'm sorry, 6. But Mr. Tickle Trunk also just sent one too for me. But I have to grab these super chats for me because I have to head out the door. So what's your first thought? It says, great job on Wednesday, Tom. You really killed it with the bullshit wars trial. Oh, the Star Wars trial thing. Yes, thank you for that. Hope to see you back for prosecution. Have a great weekend, guys. Well, if you guys want me back for prosecution, just keep telling Chris in the comments, and I'm sure he'll have me back. Glade Ribbon says, it's funny how no YouTuber can say my name, Glade Raven. Glade River, Glade Ray Rivian, but Tom just mutilated it. I always do. I wonder if I should change it.
What, is it not Glade Riven?
I don't know.
Yeah,
it is Glade Riven.
Yeah,
but I guess other people just misread it by Glade Raven, Glen Riven.
I don't know. I just read what's in front of my face like Anchorman. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to do that, 6. Captain Palsy says for Tom's Rainbow Experience. God dang it. I don't have time to explain this right now. I don't think Script Doctor would
Skittles reference, I'm guessing.
No. They're gonna try and make me go to Target and get a mankini swimsuit thingy tuck swimsuit.
No.
And I gotta use rainbow tape.
You're not getting any from Target, no matter what.
Sorry, Mikey. It was his idea.
You're not even allowed to get a transmission for your car from Target.
Yeah.
Oh, jeez.
Get it from somewhere else.
All right. Well, I'm working on that. Then we got Mr. Tickle Trunk that says, I'm jealous too, Tom. I want a G.I. Joe. Exactly. Something like that. Handled just like the Barbie movie is. Make them walk funny, kid-like dialogue. then yell bang to shoot me.
Oh, he wants classic G.I. Joe with the kung fu grip and the thumbnail
Yeah.
on the inside. Yeah, before the
basically what you would
corner.
want is like Team America did the what's the original show they're making fun of? Thunderbirds. Thunderbirds go, yeah. That would be kind of funny to see a G.I. Joe movie like that. Yes, he says, yes. Okay, yes. Yes, and don't stay on target. I won't. But yes, so I'm not doing it, Mikey. If you're still listening, Andre said Nick's.
Oh, you can do it. You just can't get it from Target.
Well, you can. They're in the back.
But yeah, it's a question how much we have to go for Rainbow Month. But yeah. But with that, Tom, I'll handle the rest of the super chats. And,
all right.
You be on your way.
I gotta go see if I'm gonna get my own operation actually. So see you, kids.
Bye, Tom.
Take care.
Yeah. And here we have a very timely question. Dark King wonders, Andre, more ESG videos on Target and Miller Lite. That is coming. But first, what you are getting, the very next video that I'm working on right now, well, not right now as we speak, but I was working on before the show, and that I'll continue on after the show, is a video that is very related to ESG, namely how stakeholder capitalism contributed to the destruction of Disney. Because now we have already gone through what ESG is, now we're going to advance to stakeholder capitalism. And then Target and Miller Lite, I'll get around to those. First, we just have to do the 101 class using Disney as the perfect example. So that is coming, and that video will be out this weekend, maybe tomorrow. So yeah, stay tuned for that. And spread the word, more ESG truth bombs coming. And then, yeah, Script, you were saying?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that because the previous ESG video was absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, well, thank you. Yeah, the response to those have been overwhelming. So clearly there is demand for just some straight up, this is what it is and how it works videos. And then Bullet in My Beard says for €5.99, thank you so much. I'm honestly looking forward to watch the Barbie movie as it looks like fun times. However, I probably need something like Hellraiser or TCM, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, afterward. Yeah, well, go for it. I'm kind of looking forward to Barbie myself. So happy to say, I did like that they put that in the trailer. If you like Barbie, this movie is for you. Yep. If you hate Barbie, this movie is also for you. You know what? I believe that. Matthew Valente says for $5, I find it hypocritical that it's okay to get upset at whitewashing, but not other race swaps. Yeah, and you are not wrong, but hypocrisy is the order of the day in Hollywood, and it, in a sense, has always been, hasn't it, Script?
It hasn't changed in a long time. In fact, I heard stories from some older people who have been in this for a very long time that back in the day when Richard Roundtree was cast as John Shaft, people are like, well, wait a minute. We've read the John Shaft books. He's a white guy. Why are you doing Richard Roundtree in this? But then that movie ended up being a cult classic and spawned a number of sequels. So, I mean, it just happens. Money usually...
The original Shaft was white?
Yes, the original John Shaft in the novels is based off his white detective. Yeah,
I had no idea. Well, there you go.
But you don't. Who cares at this point now? Because those are good movies and good stories, and it's well written.
Absolutely. And also, that's an example of where the adaptation has completely usurped the position of the original material.
Yeah, and that's just the way it worked at that point. They had an idea for what they wanted to do, and they went with it. And it wasn't in the case of, oh, we're doing this for political reasons. It's more like, oh, we're just going to have some fun with this take on the genre of the pulp detective, the gumshoe.
Yeah. And The One says the only good movies this weekend is Kandahar, a Gerard Butler movie, and potentially The Machine. I'm
The
not
Machine.
familiar with either movie, but yeah, you could very well be right.
Well, The Machine is a comedy with a guy named Bert Kreischer, I think it is, something of that nature. I can't remember his name exactly, but he is the inspiration for the Van Wilder series because he actually went to college in Florida for 7 years and didn't graduate. And he's a comic, but not necessarily a stand-up. And Mark Hamill plays his father, and it's based on a stand-up joke he has about his time in Russia in the mid-90s when the mafia owned everything. And his those mobs eventually falling in love with him as a friend because all he could say in Russia is that he's the machine. And they thought it was funny, and they took him for a couple of rides, and he ended up robbing a train that he was on going from one city to Moscow. And this movie is the premise that someone who was a victim of that train robbery has come back to claim what was stolen by the guy. And now he's in this crazy road trip thing with him and his dad.
Interesting.
Yes.
Interesting.
And Mr. Tickle Trunk, it's Bert Kreischer. So thank you. Thank you, Mr. Tickle Trunk.
And then Take Your 610 says for $5, Little Mermaid remake should have the prince become a merman. Why does the woman have to change for the man? Not woke enough, Disney, do better. Where were you when this movie was being written? Because you were needed in the Disney writer's room, evidently.
Well, they did that. It's called Splash.
Ah, there you go. And then we got a member shield from Max Relax, who's been a member for 20 months at the Midnight level. Awesome, glad to have you. And then we got $5 Canadian 50 super chat from Bombelki, but with no message, just the chat. So thanks for the support. 32 flavors of one more time. 32 flavors of Nick Weiser says for $5. Morning, gents, chat and mods. Love the new Conan video. I'm glad you approved. Not getting much traction, so glad for everyone that sees it. Your videos have made it fun to follow the goings-on around the character. Keep them coming. Yeah, and part of the reason why it's fun is because that's actually a study, and here you have someone that actually cares. I'm sure there are other properties doing the rounds in Hollywood that has a brand manager that actually cares about the property. But what to me is so fascinating there is that here you have someone in Fredrik Malmberg that single-handedly is responsible for the entire resurrection of the character that's been going on the past 20 years and who is right now fighting tooth and nail for the integrity of the character in future adaptations and is basically shutting down any attempts to steer him off course. I wish there were more examples of this in Hollywood today. What say you, Script?
I 100% agree. I think Fredrik Malmberg is doing a good job as a steward to Conan, making sure that, number one, he understands what makes Conan valuable and why it has stood the test of time, even though you can argue to a degree it has a niche type of audience and compared to some of the other tentpole properties, but it still has a great deal of potential to resurge in popularity as it did during the early days of the pulps when they were released, and also when it had its release, the theatrical films released in the early 80s, and in the 90s when it had a cartoon show and a live action adaptation of the show for a moment. It really only had one stumble with the Jason Momoa movie. And since then, it's been just trying to refine its footing. And I think Frederick's doing the best he can to find the best fit for that. And I wish him all the best in finding that partnership, because I think when he gets it right, and I think in the direction that he is going, he will, it's really going to make waves, and not just for Hollywood, but for audiences abroad as well.
Yeah, exactly. There you go. Midnight Eye says for $2, My Little Mermaid movie will have legs on screen. Well, we will be paying attention and looking out for it. Hillis Mallory has a question for Disney. Will they leave Cali? What say you, Script?
No, I doubt it. They'll probably set up another subsidiary or another partnership in another state where they'll have the main operations, but they'll always have roots in California, because it would be foolish to get rid of the property holdings they have over there. and you never know what will happen in the next 5 to 10 years. That state could turn itself around and be very, very lucrative again. And the last thing Disney wants to do is pack up shop and then have to rebuild again when things look good. So it's usually better for them to sort of branch out. Disney, by and large, has a number of property holdings throughout the United States, not just between California and Florida. So they'll move various operations wherever they're going to get the most out of their buck, but they're also going to stay where they are principally, because you have to be, when it comes to Hollywood, especially for productions, you have to be in California and around LA or San Francisco to really keep up with the pace of how that industry works.
Indeed. That is very, very true. Then Sephir has been a member for 22 months at the Midnighter level. So same to you. Thanks for being here for us. 200 Watt Studio says for $2, don't save Seaman. Bad for the prostate. Yeah, probably. And Matthew Valente says for $5, what do feminists have against marriage? Oh, wow. Feminist is actually one of those bullshit words that means different things to different people. We are now on what, the fourth wave?
I think we're closing out on the fourth wave, because the first wave feminism had nothing against marriage. It was just really about women having a bit more choice and participation with regards to the economics of the household. So if the woman wanted to work, that was her choice. And usually this was around the feminists where the kids had already left home. Like what is the one to do during the day type of thing. That was the initial aspects of it. And then it kind of mutated soon after into second wave, which dominated the majority of the latter half of the 60s and 70s. And then third wave was like in the 90s. And now we're kind of coming to the fourth wave, which is almost unrecognizable.
Yeah, I would say that we have actually gone through two more waves. Like the previous one, that was pure misandrist and utter hate towards men.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas now, just from what I can see, the newest version now is you can choose your own gender with all of that, and there's no such thing as a biological woman. So now suddenly it became something else. And if you have an issue with that, you're no longer a feminist, you're a TERF.
Yeah.
So anyone from the previous waves would basically have
don't count.
TERFs. Yeah, they don't count anymore. So yeah, that's nice going there. Horseradish Power says for £2. Who cares about the Little Mermaid? I want to see Ruby Gilman.
Oh, that's the one where the mermaids are the bad guys and the Krakens are the heroes. Ruby Gilman is a Kraken.
Oh, okay. I'm not familiar with this.
An animated feature film. Yes.
Okay. Thanks for the tip. I have to check this thing out.
Mm-hmm.
Matthew Valente says for $10. Thank you so much for the support, Matthew. Then why don't they just release the original like they used to do their other movies? Yes, script. This is something that many wonder. Why do they go through the trouble of actually remaking The Little Mermaid into a new movie instead of just like putting the old one into theaters again? Why go through the trouble? It's the same story.
Well, the fact of the matter is that the intellectual property laws throughout most of the world won't renew the copyright of that property with a re-release because it's still the original work. If you want to maintain copyright over the property or a variation of, you have to produce a new one every so often. And the other part too is that there's a lot of effort when you re-release an older film, and you don't make as much money off of it on an older film because it's already been dispersed throughout the market. So one of the advantages with regards to movies and entertainment overall is that it's scalable. You make one, you copy it, and you distribute it to all your clientele. Why would you want to reissue something that the vast majority of your clients already own to have them pay for it again? That's just bad business. But if you remake something new, give it another polish or another interpretation of sorts, then you're opening up as basically it's the same but different. It's a new product, but it's something you're familiar with, and hopefully that'll bring in more people. And now we've just taken the same story with slight modifications, and we've been able to sell it to the audience twice, or in the case of however many remakes you have, such as with Robin Hood, as an example, able to sell it back to them dozens of times. And that's basically what they're trying to do. And that's what a lot of studios try to do when they have an IP that is ingrained with their brand. They want to remarket it over and over again so that they can sell variations of it and make the most money with every generation. That's why we got a number of sequels to the Little Mermaid video on direct to DVD. Same thing with Cinderella. Same thing with Peter Pan. That's what Disney did in one regards to maintain the franchise life. Now they're trying it a different way because the post-production technology can allow them to step out of animation and do many of the tactics that they did in animation in live action or with computer-generated imagery. That is their goal. It's basically trying to say, here is the transcendent media version of your favorites, but now they look more real. And it's less cartoon and it's more immersive and captures that verisimilitude that a lot of studios try to capture by way of tone or effects. And that's why they do it.
There you go. I could not have said it better myself. Thanks for the explanation, Script.
Oh, happy to be here for that.
And STR Red Wolf says for $10 as well. Thank you so much. 2D animation has the bright, shiny factor to it, while 3D has that smooth shading and realistic rendering. Why make it more realistic when kids like escapism? Kids want bright, shiny. Well, if you mean like bright, shiny as in like 2D animation, you mean like when you say 2D animation, do you mean like computer generated or like hand-drawn animation? Because kids want bright, shiny, that they absolutely do, but I think they have a preference for 3D animated, unfortunately, as opposed to hand-drawn. That at least is my experience. What say you, Script?
It's subjective to the child, really. The other part too is kids don't even understand the concept of escapism and stories. I know people want to say or suggest they're escapism, but they're not. They're actually exploration, because escapism precludes that you're leaving your life behind and you're never coming back to it, essentially. But when you're reading a story or watching a story or something, you're exploring a new world from someone else's perspective, and you take that with you as you grow. You don't leave your life as a result of it. In fact, that story contributes to your life. It's the reverse. Those stories are escaping their world into yours, so to speak. And that is what kids resonate to. That's what adults resonate with. And it doesn't matter the type of medium that it is presented in. If it has something that can engage into an audience, that is what kids will gravitate towards. There's a reason for between the 80s and early 2010s that cartoon films were purchased essentially as libraries for families of toddlers to show to their kids. And these are movies that have been around since the 40s. Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, Sleeping Beauty, Cinderella on the Disney side of things. Those movies kept on selling, and they would be put into a vault for about 8 years and released every 10 years or so. And parents would buy them and show them to their kids, and the kids would love them. And then they would go to see those variations of stories on ice or on plays or at Disneyland or Disney World. It worked. We know it works. The whether it's computer animated, 2D, is really irrelevant. Those preferences really kind of hit harder as the child matures more.
Yeah.
So and that's where you get the differential, because they'll see the cartoon, like the traditional 2D cartoon, as something more patronizing, childish, more in line with the innocence, and they'll see the 3D rendered, well, not really 3D, a computer animated rendered, or a live action version, and that will be closer to their perception of reality, and something that they might be more attracted to look and be involved with as they age out. But they will eventually cross the Rubicon of sorts in their late teens and early 20s, and they'll find themselves gravitating to a cartoon classic like Pinocchio, which a lot of adults I know love watching that movie because it has way more layers to it than just a puppet boy trying to be a real boy. And that's just the nature of the game. It kind of cycles around all the time. And what's very fascinating is that the studios know this very well. That's why they have the mandate of, yes, you're writing something for kids, but don't forget to throw something in there for adults, because number one, adults are paying the bills. Kids don't have money, never have, never will. And so you have to get them. So you get the kids to be basically your sales agent of your company to them, to buy stuff for them. And number two, if you were in the movie and you had to take your kid to something, you don't want to be miserable. and you want to be able to share a little bit in that experience with them. So give something for the parents to enjoy as well. So even if they can't talk to the kids about what it is they enjoyed in that particular regard, and that little joke that only an adult would understand, and not like a perverse or anything of that nature, just a grown-up section of adult, like making fun of paying taxes or what have you, you at least have something where the kid's going to look up to the parent and see a smile on their face or a reaction to the movie that they're also reacting to as well. And that creates a bonding experience. And that's something that is very pivotal when creating a film that's supposed to target a family demographic.
Indeed. And STR Red Wolf clarified as in color scheme, but I believe that you got plenty clarification on exactly what goes into it. So again, thank you, script. And then Jason Milton says for $5, I don't get it. If Indy 5 was supposed to be KK's one song, and if it flops, why is she not retiring? Now KK is saying more Obi-Wan and indie films to come. Script, what's going on here?
Well, people in Hollywood generally don't retire on top. In fact, there's only a handful of stories where you can see people leave at the peak of their career. Jerry Seinfeld left Seinfeld at its height as a television show. They decided to end it there because they knew the only direction later would be going down. Jack Nicholson started to see his career and the movies that he was doing not performing as well, so he decided to retire. Same thing with Gene Hackman. But these are rarities. Most people, they go until they can't go anymore. And there's no reason for Kathleen Kennedy to go away at all, because ostensibly she is still the most powerful producer in Hollywood. And why would you ever leave that? Doesn't matter that you have difficulties getting things made. Lots of people with greater legacies or more connections than Kathleen Kennedy have a great deal of getting things made. Jerry Bruckheimer and has a hell of a time trying to get something made. And he's Jerry Bruckheimer. But that's irrelevant. It's the status that she has, the people that she's connected with, the people that she's helped build up careers that are also able to protect her and give her opportunities as well. There's no rationale and that would make sense to a reasonable person why you'd ever abandon that, regardless of the failures. Because if you're still holding on to that power, even after such flops or speculative flops, it would be foolish to abandon it.
Exactly. This isn't a matter of logic. This is ego, loyalty, and that's actually
opportunity,
that's
essentially.
And those are again derived from the loyalties, and that it was supposed to be her swan song. Well, we'll just have to see about that, how it performs and how easy it'll be to push her out the door. Time will tell on that one. Arcane Stork says for $5. Meanwhile, The Witcher is turning one of its characters, Jaskier Dandelion, bisexual and in relationship with Radovid. Well, yeah, of course it does. I mean, it's from Lauren Hissrich, who is as woke as it gets. So, of course, why would you expect anything else? Remember, the upcoming season of The Witcher is what caused Henry Cavill to leave. So don't be surprised at anything that happens there. Michael Nemo says for $5. Born in '69, I grew up in San Antonio, and Ken's TV showed the original King Kong twice a year, and I loved the '76 version and had the poster on my wall. Yeah, I loved it too, and that's a pretty sweet poster, I gotta say. I mean, yeah, it doesn't really make that much sense in terms of like proportion or size or anything, but man, that's a sweet poster. Rodney A. Brubaker says for $2, if true to book, live action Black Cauldron be cool. That would be cool, wouldn't it?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. The Grand Inquisitor says for $5. Disney should do a live-action remake of Pocahontas with Kelly Marie Tran in the titular role and John Boyega as John Smith. And here all the Native Americans
man, there's going to be a lot angry. They were already angry at the original Pocahontas. So because like Pocahontas wasn't that old when she was with John Smith, and John Smith wasn't in her. I mean, it's all conjecture with regards to how the relationship between those two were. Sadly, the records are kind of spotty on that regard. But yeah.
And Justin B just became a member. Oh, welcome. Glad to have you on board. And Pegasus Chronicle says for $1.99, will supporting this Flash film help the Snyderverse? You know what? Nothing will help the Snyderverse at this point. And supporting this movie also won't do anything. The Snyderverse is done. It's not coming back. There's nothing you can do. The time to support it, were two things you could do to support it. One was to watch it all the time on HBO Max. Two was to buy the Blu-ray and the 4K, and the third, and perhaps the most important, was to make sure that you didn't watch The Batman in theaters, and that you convinced as many other people to not watch it either.
The fourth would have been going to the theater to see it more than 2 or 3 times, because the repeat viewings for those movies in theaters were dismal.
Yeah, exactly. But especially The Batman. If you were a Snyderverse fan and you in any way, shape, or form contributed to the success of The Batman, I'm sorry to say you fucked the Snyderverse. And there's no unfucking it. The Snyderverse is dead, and just let it go. This is not coming back. John Apocalypse has been a member for 8 months at the Midnighter level. So thanks for being here. And Jesus Davila has also been a member for 1 year, and he gifted a Midnight's Edge membership. Well, thank you and welcome. Regal Esquire says for $2, the new Barbie trailer looks nuts. It does indeed. And then Dyrus says for $2, I got the Flash TV show DVD this week. I'm good. But which Flash TV show? The original 90s one with John Wesley Shipp, or the new one? If you got the 90s one, then you're good. I agree with that. Even
the
as
90s
Mark
one,
Hamill.
Yeah, the 90s one, you should be good. The Flash, the current one, they just had their series finale a couple days ago, and it never trended. So that was pretty bad for them.
That was pretty lackluster.
It wasn't a great series.
Yeah. And Magician Sapphire says for $10, thank you so much for the support. The only thing Elemental makes me want to do is watch Osmosis Jones, because the water character looks just like him.
Yes,
I've never actually seen Osmosis Jones, but I guess that's right.
Yeah, Bill Murray is sick throughout the whole film, and it's not bad.
Yeah. And Midnight Eye wonders, do you think the Flash is being Bud Lighted? Yeah, what say you, Script? Do you think that this incredibly low opening weekend estimate of 70 million, is that a sign of the Flash being Heimlichited?
I would like to think so, but I suspect it's really just tactics by the studio to try and allow for the possible trade headlines of the Flash performance beyond expectations. So they're trying to essentially do what the studios have been doing to audiences for years, which is lower the bar so that, and even their mediocrity would seem impressive. That's my suspicion, because again, it's the Memorial Day weekend coming up. That's a big weekend next to 4th of July. There's no, in this summer period, there's no reason why they would expect a low number like that for a movie that they've been praising for several months as one of the best DC films to have been ever made. So it doesn't, those two actions don't jive well. So I'm thinking they're just trying to hedge their bets, low ball it, so that when it clears 100 million, which most likely will, they'll have the articles in the trade saying the Flash blows past 70 million predictions with 110 million opening box office long day weekend type of thing. I think that's what they're looking for here.
I agree with that, because it's a much better headline with the Flash blows past $70 million expectations, opens to an incredible 110 million, as opposed to the Flash disappoints, opening to only 110 million.
With estimates at like 150 or 160.
Yeah, those were two very different headlines for the exact same number. Because the reality is that if it opens to like 110 million, considering the expense, considering who's in it or something, it's still underperforming. But if there are expectations right now that it opens to 70, in one of those scenarios, it's overperforming the expectations, if not what it needs to do. But of course, if it really does open to 70 million, which I don't think, but if it does, then we can start having a conversation about the cost. And then I don't think that it's that movie being hindsighted. Then I think we're looking at the bigger structural issues for superhero movies in general. Then I think that the Marvel burnout is so severe that it's extending outside of Marvel.
Well, the Marvel burnout comes not just with oversaturation of the market, but also the bloating of the budgets. And I think that's the one advantage that Warner Brothers can do to actually get in on this part of the racket, as it were, is to have modest budgets for their tentpole superhero films to make sure that they don't break the $200 million mark and really keep it tight and really pick and choose where you're going to have your special effects so that they have an impact and exercise the things that you know you can do well to compete. But I mean, the odds of that happening are going to be very difficult to achieve because we have to wait and see what's going to happen with the pending strikes and the current one that's happening right now.
Yeah, indeed. Justin B says for $5.50 Canadian, Andre, did you see Buff Dude's King Conan concept trailer? They're fitness YouTubers and they just released a video for their take on a King Conan movie. No, I have not seen this. This is the first I ever hear of it. I have to check that out after the stream. Thanks for the tip.
I'm familiar with the Buff Dudes because they're actually in LA, and every once in a while I'd see these giant men with like purple tank tops that have Buff Dudes on them. And I remember they said they had a YouTube channel. They're like traditionally they're classic Arnold Schwarzenegger bodybuilder types.
Okay, so they're not like these roided out mass monsters then.
They're not. No, they're big, but they're definitely not roided out. But yeah, they're cool. They're cool, affable people that I have interacted with on occasion every once in a while. I don't know them very well. We never exchanged contact information, but you can't not miss them because they're big.
Yeah,
they're big, muscular guys.
People like that tend to be visible from a distance. Thanks for the tip. I'll check it out after the stream here. Matthew Valente says for $5, why can't they just re-release the original like Disney Channel did with Boy Meets World before Girl Meets World came out?
Well, that is a cross-marketing promotion or vertical integration where they re-release the classic to build an audience for the pending sequel. I would not be surprised if you go on Disney Plus right now, they probably have a little bit of a banner promoting the cartoon Little Mermaid, and saying, watch it here, then go see it in theaters because that helps them.
Yeah. And then Alejandro Diaz says for 1,000, I believe that is Costa Rican colon. And he says G.I. Joe Resolute is the best movie made. Isn't that like a web series?
Maybe that might be a cartoon.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's like a cartoon web series. G.I. Joe I'm not familiar with a movie titled G.I. Joe Resolute.
Yeah, it's not ringing any bells.
But hey, it could be that the web series is so good, and if you watch the whole thing as one, it may seem like a movie. I haven't seen it. That could be. I know that's certainly the case with with that Street Fighter series, Assassin's Fist. That was like this web miniseries, but combined the whole thing into a movie, and it's still the best live-action Street Fighter product ever made, bar none. So this could be the same. And then call sign Alucard says for $4.99, Rainbow Tape Go. Yeah, well, not from Target, that's for sure. And EVA Unit 4A says for $10. Thanks for the support. I know Disney producing non-woke in 2023 is impossible. I'm still puzzled myself, but what I've heard, it is a diamond in the rough. Possibly woke bait like Dune and Guardians of the Galaxy 3. Please reconsider if you're referring to the Little Mermaid. Yeah, we shall see. We'll listen to the reviews there. I haven't seen it myself, so I cannot comment on it. I would say, though, that the moment that you do that kind of like fan baiting stunt casting, you do go a little bit woke.
Definitely risk it.
Yeah. So, yeah, you're definitely walking on like the edge there. The Quiet One says for $2, first wave feminists bombed churches. Look it up. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. I
Wouldn't be surprised, especially with a couple of reveals that occurred about the churches at that period in time.
Yeah,
it wasn't good for anyone.
And the Investigative Examiners says for $4.99, I chatted with James Lindsay. He said he likes your work. Glad I sent him your videos. Get him on. Oh, yeah. Well, we can definitely look into that. And please be sure to forward him the video that we will be dropping presumably tomorrow about stakeholder capitalism exemplified by Disney. I think he might enjoy that video, and if you could help him share it on Twitter like he did the previous one, I'm sure that would be a great help. And yeah, I'd love to have a conversation about him coming on, talk some ESG, stakeholders, what have you. That might be fun. And Matthew Mutson wonders for $4.99. Andre, have you seen the Mesco Conan figures? They are awesome. Where does Chuck Dixon's new Conan novels fit in the timeline? Well, yeah, I have seen the Mesco Conan figures, and they are indeed awesome. Now, where does the Chuck Dixon's new Conan novels fit in the timeline? Well, of course, there's like two things to keep in track here. One is that they are part of their own continuity, so they don't fit in with any of the other like official canon timelines. Other than that, you can obviously read them in nice conjunction with Chuck Dixon's own work and with the original stories. I haven't read this one myself, but based on what I recall that he said when he visited us, the clip of which is over at Live Archives, I believe this book took place during his mercenary years, didn't it, Script? You have
Yes, I actually started reading it. It's in the middle of his mercenary years, it appears. So he's a gun for hire.
So then this would be right around the time of, like, say, Red Nails, a little bit before Red Nails, probably, in the timeline.
Maybe. I haven't finished the book yet, but I suspect that might be the case, yes.
Yeah, so it would be right around Red Nails. Certainly before the stories of King Conan, it would be around Red Nails, thereabouts. Dwayne Olson says for $5, glad to see Conan was taken away from he castrated at Netflix. Flip aside, glad to see The Flash is embracing cheesecake and beefcake, a road to sanity. I have no idea what that last thing there meant.
I'm not familiar with the references they're citing there. Cheesecake and beefcake?
Well, if you have fun with it and it's good news, then it doesn't matter if we caught the references or not.
Yeah.
And Bumblekey says for $5 Canadian dollars 50. Sorry, last time it didn't go through. What do you guys think of the movie The Creator, film directed by Gareth Edwards? I don't know that I've seen this one. The Creator by Gareth Edwards.
It's a trailer dropped a few days ago. It is a science fiction film where AI has been birthed of sorts, and then it attacked humanity, and now there's a war. So it's very Terminator-esque. And one of the AIs that a human soldier has been tasked with hunting down in a Blade Runner type story-esque is a child, and he ends up liking this child and wanting to protect this child, even though it's an artificial being. It's it looks cool visually, but that's easy these days. It looks to me like a very derivative type of science fiction story where, humanity and AI have to learn to work together in the end. And
okay. Yeah.
I haven't seen for me, at least.
I haven't seen the trailer yet. What I will say is that I haven't liked a single one of Gareth Edwards' movies. Quite the contrary. Not a single one. He directed Monsters, which I did not like. He directed the 2014 legendary Godzilla remake, which I also did not like. And he directed Rogue One, A Star Wars Story, and I remember being in the theater, sitting there watching it, thinking, what the hell am I doing here? I hate this.
Well, him and Tony Gilroy. And what's funny is I'm not a big fan of Tony Gilroy either. So.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm just hearing that it's from Gareth Edwards. He is someone where 3 out of 3 movies he's made so far I have not liked. So
Gareth
we'll
and
see
Tony
if I check this
Gilroy
one out.
are more special effects art directors than they are storytellers.
Yeah. And Gunstar1 said for $4.99, Andre, thank you for your great videos on ESG. I found them very informative. Keep up the great work. Oh, well, thank you for the support and for the kind words. And be sure to check back probably tomorrow, but if not tomorrow, then on Sunday for our follow-up video taking on stakeholder capitalism, which is the ideological justification behind ESG. So it's all related. Now we are moving on in the classes, so to speak. And with that, we are actually fully caught up. So with that, Script, thanks for being here till the bitter end.
Well, I'm happy to oblige and hang out with you and everyone in the chat for all your great commentary and questions and super chats. Greatly appreciated.
Yeah,
I mean, for you and me, we don't have a holiday weekend coming up. So,
well, technically there is a holiday in Norway, but being a YouTuber, I never have holiday. So yeah,
okay.
that lot of good that does. I'm like, oh, fuck, it's another day when the kids are home from school, so I have to look after them. Why I should be working here? So yeah, good times.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So yeah, no rest for the wicked. But with that, everyone, check out Script Doctor's Patreon. What are you doing there recently that people should be checking out?
Well, recently I talked about how the streaming wars is not yet over, but I'm currently working right now on a companion piece to your Conan video where I review the Legend of Conan script. I'm almost finished going through it. And so look forward to that on my Patreon. And for anyone that is not sure if they're interested in the Patreon or not, my basic tier, which is a $5 tier, it has a 7-day free trial. And it's open to seeing all of the posts at that tier level. So if that is something that is interest of you and you're wanting to see more and more tips, more reviews, and more musing articles regarding the writing process and story, feel free to check that out and sign up. It's very much helps me during the writer strike at this moment. And I'm also going to have, if you are a writer yourself or you want to understand the media that you consume a bit more, it is a great source to help you figure out and articulate your thoughts and feelings on entertainment.
Indeed. So check that out. The link is in the description. Also, check out the link for our other guests, Cultured Casino, which I believe may be live over on his channel right now. If so, head on over there. Tell him Midnight's Edge sent you. And later on, be sure to check out Mr. Chato, both on his own channel and on FNT tonight. Yeah, do let them know that the Midnight's Edge sent you there as well. And with that, as always, even without Tom here to click the button, it is time for some koalas. Actually, Script, it's your turn. What is it time for?
It is time for some koalas in the rain.
Koalas in the rain, koalas in the rain, no fucks given. Koalas in the rain.